Hello and welcome back to the Feature Length Podcast, a podcast where three best friends get together to talk about movies/TV shows that they love/hate for about the length of a feature film, sometimes the length of the Snyder Cut of a feature film. I'm Marco, and today I'm joined by...
Carolina, hi.
And Daniel, hello.
Everyone crack open your beers today, because we're talking about the worst, or maybe best, depending on who you're talking to, comic book movie. Batman vs. Superman. Okay,
People think it's the best?
I mean, there are some people, that will argue that this is a work of brilliance. So,
Marco, before you get started, when you were looking to the side to read off your script, you were like, because of the angle, it looked like you were staring into my soul through the camera.
Yeah, I can move the script to this page because I'm going to be looking there a lot. So,
Very intimate experience for all of the hosts.
All right, here we go. So, for those of you who are more frequent listeners of our podcast, you guys know normally we start off these episodes with a brief plot synopses for those who maybe haven't seen the movies that we're talking about. Last week, Carol gave us something that was definitely not brief. It was quite a long, rambly plot synopsis of Man of Steel. And today, I think I'm going to have tried to outdo her here with this plot synopsis. Because, again, we're talking about Batman v Superman. We're talking about the ultimate cut. So, just a little bit of context. This movie comes out. It was 2.5 hours long, and there's a lot of problems with it. And Zack Snyder said it was because he had half an hour of footage cut out. So they put that back in, and this apparently fixes the problems with the movie, except no, it doesn't. It fixes nothing. It adds more plot. It definitely adds more plot. I'll tell you that. Does it fix anything? No. Okay. Let's get into the plot synopsis, and then I will let you guys talk about your feelings on this movie. Okay. Batman vs. Superman stars two characters who are dressed like Batman and Superman. That's about where the connection to those characters begin and end. The movie begins the way all movies should, with the death of the Waynes and Bruce turning into Batman. The movie then begins a second time with a direct sequel to Man of Steel, as adult Bruce Wayne watches the destruction of Superman and Zod caused at the end of Man of Steel. The movie begins again a third time, this time 18 months later, with divers in the Indian Ocean finding kryptonite. And now, finally, the movie can finally begin, this time as a spy thriller starring Lois Lane in Africa. For those of you keeping count, that's 4 opening scenes across 3 time zones in the span of 10 minutes. So, what's Lois doing in Africa besides giving awful line readings? Well, she's interviewing a militia leader, but it turns out that the CIA has actually used this interview as cover to embed an agent. Who's that agent? Jimmy Olsen. Yes, the classic Superman character who is a silly photographer friend of Superman. Not in Zack Snyder's universe. In Zack Snyder's universe, he is a CIA agent who gets shot in the head. Anyway, let's cut to the chase. Superman shows up to save Lois after she's taken hostage. Why is she taken hostage? Stay tuned to find out. Now we cut back to the present, where there are hearings being held by Elastigirl from The Incredibles. She's questioning whether or not Superman is good and should be allowed to be Superman. Is it because he leveled all of Metropolis? Nope, it's because he's being framed for killing some African militia while saving Lois. Are you confused yet? So is the screenplay, don't worry. Anyway, now we get to the Batman plot, which is that he's mad at Superman and wants to kill him. Is it because he's a Batman who's retired after the death of Jason Todd and needs to relearn what it means to be Batman? If you ask Zack Snyder in interviews after the movie came out, yes. If you simply are watching the movie, no. So anyway, what's actually happening here? Well, it turns out that off-screen, Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg doing a Max Landis impression if Max Landis was a sociopath, aka just regular Max Landis, figured out that both Batman and Superman are Bruce and Clark using his powers of feeding people Jolly Ranchers. And Lex spends the movie making Batman upset and making Superman look bad, and somehow this will cause the two of them to fight. So that explains the whole Africa scene. It was engineered by Lex to frame Superman. Because Superman causing a 9/11 level event in Metropolis won't make American citizens hate him. What's really going to get them going is Superman killing a couple of African militia. So, why does Max Landis, want the two of them to fight? I don't know, because he literally is simultaneously creating a monster capable of killing Superman. So, what's his beef with Batman? This movie is 3 hours long, and we don't even get the slightest indication as to why Lex wants to involve Batman at all. I guess it's because he just loves bringing people together. Anyway, most of the movie is just people staring at TV screens looking sad while the news is reported to them. Lois Lane has a subplot where she goes to Washington, comes back, and then goes to Washington again to give more bad line readings. Then she gets kidnapped, then saved, then throws a kryptonite spear into water, then jumps in the water to get it, then starts drowning, then gets saved, and then cries. When Lois is traveling back and forth between locations and giving bad line readings, Max Landis blows up the Capitol, killing Elastigirl. Why? To make people, / Batman, hate Superman more, I guess. Except literally the next scene, there are news reporters saying it was a bomb and not Superman. And also, Batman already wanted to kill Superman from frame 1 of this movie, so what's with all this added motivation? Anyway, Murder Man and Captain Hypocrite finally get into a fight in the last 10 seconds team up to fight a CGI monster. And then Wonder Woman shows up. Because even after writing out this entire fucking plot, I still somehow managed to totally neglect Wonder Woman is in this movie. Anyway, Superman dies for our sins because Zack Snyder thinks he's Jesus, and then Batman isn't a bad guy anymore and decides to form the Justice League because the Flash showed up in a vision/dream halfway through this movie and said to form the Justice League. Oh wait, no he didn't. He said Lois is the key. What the fuck does that mean? How did Batman extrapolate that into meaning he needs to form the Justice League? Then the movie ends and some dirt moves off Superman's coffin for some reason, the end. Also, did I forget to mention this movie was written by an Oscar award-winning screenwriter? He would also go on to write Justice League and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. So if anyone still takes the Oscars as an indication of talent, please don't. And that is my summary of Batman vs. Superman.
Wow.
Thanks.
You summed it up
Quick question.
perfectly.
Yeah, Dan, what's up?
I'm assuming you mean Chris Terrio's an Oscar-winning screenwriter?
Yeah, for Argo.
Oh.
Yep.
Another Affleck
Jeez,
job.
okay.
Well, and again, so to give a touch of context before we get into this, because I know last week I talked a lot about the build-up to Man of Steel. The build-up to Batman v Superman, right, was Man of Steel comes out. We all had the reaction we had last week. Or I guess we were all, positive on it back then. But generally, we all kind of felt like this movie ends in a cool place. Let's see what the DC universe is going to be. And then we waited 3 years. This movie got delayed by a whole year. They were like, nah, we're taking our time with it.
I remember that.
And we heard that, Ben Affleck is Batman, but also Chris Terrio is coming on again. This team of writer-director that just won Oscars. And so there was all this press about how, this is so good because, actually Ben Affleck is low-key going to be directing parts of this movie, and, they're going to have such an influence on the story to really rein in Zack Snyder. And so I was hyped for this movie. I was so hyped for this movie. And this movie sucks. And I've been talking a lot. I'll turn it over to you guys to get your general thoughts out, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, mine's not going to be very long. I was just going to say this movie definitely does suck. I don't even remember it being, as bad as I remember it being, I didn't remember it being this bad. But it is. And we're going to go literally through the linear storytelling of this movie, so I won't say too much right now, but yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, I saw this one in theaters. Obviously, not this ultimate cut, which I did not even know it was called that. What a ridiculous name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I didn't remember it at all. I guess I generally knew, obviously, it was Batman versus Superman. I remembered Wonder Woman. I remembered that Martha brought them all together. We'll get there. I'm not even going to comment on it right now. But yeah, this time though, we did watch, all of us watched, I think, the Ultimate Edition, so we got that extra 30 minutes. I had to Google what was different. I guess they introduced a whole character. We'll talk about her, I guess. A couple of characters, actually.
A couple useless characters, but yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I just thought they were in it. When I read that they introduced them for the first time, I just assumed they were in the cut I watched, and I just forgot about it, because that would be just as plausible. But yeah, it felt like a 3-hour movie.
It felt like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, so that checks out. A lot happened, though, so I'll give them that. A lot and nothing, but we'll talk about it.
We will talk about it.
Those are my thoughts. It was a lot.
Yeah. I also don't like this movie. I do have to say, though, I need to go on record because actually Dan and I were just having this conversation. I don't remember if it was actually in the last episode or if it was after when we were just talking. But we were basically saying what we thought was worse, Batman vs. Superman or Justice League. And I have always said, as much as I think Justice League is just nothing, and it's just a useless movie, that I find this movie more offensive, like, to the characters of Batman and Superman. And while I still stand by that, I have to say, I did have a bit of a nice nostalgic time going back and watching this movie, because this movie reminded me of a lot of fun things going on in life. And we also happened to watch it around the time that the movie actually came out, which is like March, and it's like spring, and like warm weather came back, and Daredevil season 2 was on TV, and like I just started dating Madison, and our first year of university was ending. It was just a really nice time.
Civil War was coming up.
Yeah, it was such a glorious time in our lives. Like Marvel was at its peak. Yeah, like Dance Civil War, and yeah, so it was fun to like have those feelings. Although, yeah, this movie is still bad. I probably will say, maybe at the end of this we can rank all of them. I guess I do agree with you, Dan, that Justice League is probably worse, but I don't know. We'll see when next week comes.
We'll talk about that, yeah, in the next episode.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't like it. So something I wanted to do, we're going to change the format up a little bit this week for an episode that's like this big, and I think it's also, honestly, of everything we watch, probably the one that we're going to be the most negative on. Like, or I guess Mother, like, we were very negative on, but I don't know. This one...
Oh, you mean out of all of our episodes?
Yeah, I think it's, like, a tie between this and Mother in terms of what we're going to be
I think I have more positive things to say about
Twilight.
This than Mother.
I have more positive things to say about Twilight than this, if I'm being honest with you. What we're going to do with the format is we're basically just going to go through the Wikipedia synopsis, and I'm just going to call out in chronological order kind of the major scenes, and we'll just talk about like what works and what doesn't, mostly what doesn't.
Yeah, it's the best way to rein in all of our thoughts.
Yeah. Now, before all of that, though, something that I think is going to be really important to talk about with this movie is, and I normally won't do this, but I need to give any listeners a little bit of comic book knowledge, because this movie is Zack Snyder attempting to fuse like the two most iconic Batman and Superman comics together without any of the context of those comic books, and it doesn't work. So I just need to give people a little bit of context for that, and then we'll talk about what I think is so like offensive about parts of this movie, because it's like when he made Watchmen, and the whole point of Watchmen is that it's like making fun of superheroes, and that the superheroes in that are like schlubby real people. But like we've talked about, in Watchmen, they're all like badasses that are like ripped and like have these slow-mo fight scenes, and it's like, oh, the message of the book completely went over your head. And I think it's the same here. So let's quickly get into it. So the first comic I'm going to quickly summarize is the Batman one. This is, in a lot of ways, a direct ripoff of Dark Knight Returns, which is, you know, if you look up top 10 best Batman comics, it's going to be like number 1 on all those lists. Now, I've always said, and I think most Batman fans will agree, Dark Knight Returns is, yes, the best like written singular Batman story, but it is the culmination of being a Batman fan, and it's not really a quintessential like the Batman in that story isn't like quote unquote quintessential Batman that you have in Adventures. It's a very specific Batman that you only get to have because you've had decades of context with this character. So just a quick summary of that story is that it's like in the future of the DC universe, and Batman's second Robin, Jason Todd, was killed by the Joker, so he stopped being Batman. And so we pick up, the story starts, and it's like 10 years after that event, and Batman is like 60 years old. He is like depressed and angry and an alcoholic, and like we specifically call out how when he was young Batman, he didn't really drink, but like now that he's old Batman, like Gordon has a line where he's like, oh man, like you're making up for lost time, aren't you? Because he's like straight up an alcoholic. Yeah, and then through events in the story, Gotham is kind of going to shit, and then he kind of comes out of retirement for one last adventure, and like in this adventure has to relearn how to be Batman, essentially. Yeah, and there's different chapters in it. So there's like Batman fighting the mutant leader, which doesn't really matter. There's like a Batman fighting Two-Face chapter. There's a really cool chapter between Batman and the Joker. And actually, like the whole crux of that chapter is that Batman, who's in this super like raw place, is like committed to killing the Joker, but then can't. Like right at the end, he can't, and the Joker is so like he finds that so pathetic that he kills himself. He's like, oh my god, you still couldn't kill me, like after all this, and like you being in this alcoholic deranged state, like, and he kills himself. Yeah, and then this famous Batman comic ends with a Batman-Superman fight. And it is panel for panel, pretty much, like, a lot of what you see in this movie. If you look up frames of, like, Superman hovering above Batman, Batman's got the mechanized, like, suit that he uses. Batman wins the fight using kryptonite. But in the comic, that fight comes from a place of, like, Batman and Superman having worked together and been, like, best friends and formed the Justice League and all this stuff. And they've had, like, this major falling out in the comic where Superman is, like, an agent of the government, and Batman is just, like, frustrated with him, and it's like, it's not cool. It's not a cool fight. It's a really sad fight, because it's like these two characters that are, again, it's like the Civil War fight, but even worse, because it's like with decades and decades of context into the future of their relationship, and they have this fight, and yeah, and it's like really impactful, but you know, because you have years of build up to it. And then the other comic that this takes, and as we go through the plot synopsis, I'm specifically going to call out, like, there are images from this movie that, again, are, like, panels from the Dark Knight Returns comic book. There's dialogue in this movie that is word for word taken from Dark Knight Returns. But, and Dan and I have had this conversation before in private, you know, when you're adapting a comic, it's not just enough to take the things that you like about the comic and put it literally on the screen. Because the whole context of Dark Knight Returns is that he has to, like, obviously it's like decades of history, and he has to relearn what it means to be Batman. And there is literally a scene in it where there's, like, this guy that has a gun, and Batman, like, takes the gun out of his hand and, like, breaks it over his knee. And you can look this up online. Everyone was posting it after this movie came out, and Batman gives this whole speech about how, like, guns are the weapon of the enemy, like, we're not going to use them, they're clumsy, they're stupid. Yeah, and I guess Zack Snyder just missed all that. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he just truly, it was like he didn't read the comic book. He just looked through it and saw cool images and put them in this movie. Anyway, that's Dark Knight Returns. And the other one that I think it's important for people to have context about is the death of Superman. Again, death of Superman. This was in the 90s. Superman was created in the 40s. This is like a long time coming. And at this point in Superman storytelling, he had, like, everything. His family was alive. He was married or, like, engaged, whatever. He was with Lois, and, like, she knew about his identity. And, like, life was good. And then this creature, Doomsday, shows up and single-handedly fucks up the entire Justice League. He fucks up, everyone. And, like, it's up to Superman to save the day. And he ends up killing Superman. But it's, like, really emotional. And then for about a year after that, you had comics that were just, like, all of the DC universe, like, dealing with the death of Superman. And, like, Wonder Woman being like, man, like, I am a warrior, and, like, if I had been a better warrior, like, Superman would be alive. And, like, Batman dealing with, like, his best friend having been killed. And it was, like, this really crazy time in DC Comics history. And then eventually Superman comes back to life in his black suit, and it's really cool. It's not really cool. It's kind of stupid how it happens in the story, but whatever. He shows up and he's in his black suit, and it's like, okay, cool, Superman's back now. So those are the two, and, like, even just in me explaining this, I think you can see clearly where Zack Snyder, like, took influence from, but just got it all wrong. So wrong. So very wrong.
Yeah,
so
that's my thing whenever I watch any superhero movie. Because I don't have any context from comic books, I'm always really curious about whether it's, like, the telling of a story from one comic, or if they're just inspired by a few comics. Or, like, why is this detail here? Why is this detail not here? So that was definitely helpful for me. I definitely saw even a few frames where I was like, why is that included? Are we ever going to get the backstory? Probably not. But at least we got to see Ben Affleck's butt. So
at least we did get to see Ben Affleck's butt. Let's get into it. Let's get into the plot of this movie. So which of the 4 opening scenes do you guys want to talk about first? Because this movie
the first one.
starts and stops 4 times. I mean, it is like,
yeah,
it's shocking.
I say
to
let's
me.
just go in the order that the movie goes in.
So the first scene is we get a really unnecessary death of Bruce Wayne's parents.
But come on, the gun breaking the string of pearls, Marco.
But here's the thing. Again, that is
shot entirely in slow motion.
Yeah.
Every slow-mo shot in that scene is like a frame from The Dark Knight Returns when like Bruce is like having a panic attack
With the
at one
pearls
point.
too?
Yeah, but also again, Bruce is having a panic attack as like a 60-year-old man remembering this thing, and it's like, and also we just had a franchise that very like in detail showed Batman's origin, and also at this point there was that Gotham TV show that was about Batman, and also even before all that, everyone knows. Everyone knows his parents are shot. He becomes Batman, and I guess the thing that frustrates me the most about this scene is that clearly, when they're using Dark Knight Returns as an influence, what they're trying to do is say, okay, we don't want to redo a young origin of Batman movie. Let's instead have Batman be introduced by having an older Batman like relearn what it means to be Batman, which is why they picked the Dark Knight Returns comic. Cool, that's fine. Then why the hell are we not starting this movie with the death of Jason Todd? Because it's never made explicitly clear in this movie that Batman stopped being Batman and then because of Superman like came back as a more vengeful Batman. Like we get hints to it because like apparently Clark had just never heard of Batman and now suddenly is like, oh yeah, what about this Batman guy? So clearly like at some point he stopped being Batman, and also we see the Jason Todd costume in the Batcave at one point. So it's like if this is a movie that is going to introduce the idea of becoming Batman instead of the origin of Batman, then it shouldn't start with the origin of Batman. It should start with the thing that stopped him from being Batman in the first, like, and then, so we go from the death of Jason Todd to, okay, now I have to, like, come out of retirement to fight Superman, but then I'll relearn what it means to be Batman. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it makes sense, but that also wasn't...
Break. Sorry, Dan.
I was just going to say that. That's what I was going to say. Because they mention... There's a line later in the movie that mentions that he's been Batman for about 20 years. But before that line is mentioned, I genuinely thought that, like, he started being Batman soon after just before the events of this movie. So that was very confusing to me. That wasn't, like, even made clear, I think.
See, and I thought he just for some reason got extra active after he got mad at Superman. I thought he was there all along, but maybe like low key, because even when he was talking to the dude in the building where Superman went to the, what is her name, Kahina Ziri's building, and she was talking to the dude who scratched the bat symbol in the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
He made it seem like everyone knew of him for quite a while, and they were all afraid of him because he was so intense. So I just thought he doubled down for some reason.
So...
But then at the same time, there were people that talked about him like he was still like an urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like after 20 years, he would be more than just an urban legend in Gotham.
Yeah.
You know?
So what this is the problem. Like, is this movie has so much mixed messaging, and I feel like subliminally, it all starts with this first scene. Because if this scene is of that iconic moment of like him holding the dead Robin and being like, I'm not Batman anymore, it completely fixes a lot of that stuff. The problem is, okay, so you get into the movie starts with his origin, so you're like, okay, is this what? And then you get the second scene of like, okay, clearly, yeah, Bruce Wayne, he's being a badass, okay, cool. But then, yeah, it's so odd because, okay, one, this movie makes a really weird choice, which is that Metropolis and Gotham City are right next to each other. Okay, cool. How does Clark, how has he never heard of Bruce Wayne or Batman before then? Like even when Bruce Wayne shows up, he's like, oh, who's that? And the guy's like, oh, you must be new here. That's Bruce Wayne. And it's like, unless this is alcoholic, I'm never leaving my house because I'm retired Bruce Wayne, that should not be a thing that happens in the rules of, this universe. And then also, so there is that scene that starts cool and ends stupid, and which is most scenes in this movie, but specifically this one, which is our introduction to Batman. Where there's like those people that are being held in the cage and the police officers show up and those guys. And this scene really bugs me because why would at this point, if this isn't, again, a Batman who has been retired for, let's say, 5 years and is now coming out of retirement, like the police officers would right away be like, oh, okay, Batman's here. You know what I mean? There's like weird
Exactly.
There's weird noises upstairs, and those girls are like, please, like, don't let us out of the cage. And they're like, why? And I'm like, dude, you are a officer in Gotham City. If Batman hasn't been retired, you know that it's because of Batman. And then, yeah, there's there's lots of weird shit like that. And then, so in the dialogue with Alfred, you know what? That's later.
Sorry.
We'll get to that.
In that same scene where they introduce him, when the cop pans up and you see him in the corner,
Carol.
like Mother from Hereditary style, I laughed so hard. I was watching this by myself, and I just started scream laughing because it was so funny.
So a lot of times, and I mean, I guess Dan can back me up on this, but I don't even need someone who's gone to film school to back me up on this. Most of the time when you introduce a character in a movie for the first time and see them on screen, it's really deliberate. You know what I mean? Like imagine, like, think about, like, the first Star Wars and, like, Darth Vader showing up. Or, like, you know, like, just think of any movie. And in this movie, you have this scene that I really like. I like the scene. I like how tense it is. I like how, like, genuinely scary it is. And I like how everyone's on edge. And then, yeah, the police officer just looks, and Batman's just like, and he's just, like, sitting on the ceiling. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's how you're going to show Batman? You know what it reminded me of?
It reminded me of Adam West Batman.
Yes! It looks so dumb!
But what's more deliberate than showing him, you know, hanging like a bat? I guess he should have been upside down, but, you know.
Oh my god. Like, why even show him in full, though? Like, okay, what if he was just, like, in shadow, and you just saw, like, some element of him, like, move around as he left the room? You know what I mean? Like, the first time you see him in costume should be, like, badass. It should be like a cool moment.
He didn't even need to be seen at all. Not even a shadow. I feel like just the cops finding the brand would be more than enough.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on the brand. Okay, we gotta jump back. We're getting too far ahead.
Yeah.
So,
because I want to talk about the Metropolis destruction scene.
This is going to be a 4-hour episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I know Marco and I at least agree. This Metropolis destruction scene at the beginning to, like, retcon what happened to Man of Steel, it's objectively pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
It's fun. But this last time I rewatched, which for the record, I think this is only, like, my third time now seeing the movie, third or fourth. Only. But this scene, that's embarrassing.
You should be embarrassed.
I've seen this movie like 6 times, Carol. Don't even make fun of him.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Well, he owns it.
I don't know why. I don't know. But
anyway,
yeah.
So this scene, I remember, like, this was one of the standout scenes in the movie. But this past rewatch, I was like, I have a major problem with this scene now, because, for me, this scene just, like, screams the reason Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. And again, like, as I was saying before, this is before we hear that line about the 20 years of being Batman. So for me, with the context of what we've seen so far, this scene screams, oh, his entire motivation for becoming Batman is Superman. And that just does the character so dirty, I think.
Yeah.
And this is why, like, Batman needed his own movie before doing this, like, Avengers level movie 2 movies in. Because by, like, you got Superman, Batman in one movie, 2 movies in, and then by the end you have Wonder Woman. It's like, this is too much. We're going too fast. Because with, you know, as rich a character as Batman is, I think it's so insulting to have, like, in this second scene where he's introduced, the audience think that his entire, like, decision to become Batman is based on a reaction from another superhero.
Yeah.
He deserves better.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe because, like, the Christopher Nolan trilogy had, like, just, quote unquote, it's been quite a few years, but had just come out, they're like, oh, there's been so much Batman content and no Superman content, which I still think is unfair, because now that they're trying to establish this whole new arc and storyline, I feel like they can't really point to that as an excuse. Because you, like, how are you going to justify having one of the titular characters given no introduction in this new kind of story you're trying to create?
Yeah.
That's why everyone, or me at least, was so confused the whole time. Because I'm like, wait, where are we? What is going on?
Yeah. Well, they just do a bad job of it. And I feel like, again, like, if you... I mean, in a perfect world, they would have just done a Batman movie before. And by the way, like, we're not saying a Batman origin movie, but just, like, a Batman movie to understand, like, this Batman as a character. That being said, if you want this to be the introduction, okay, but then I think to Dan's point, you can't wait until the 2-hour mark in the movie to then spring it on us that, oh, by the way, like, this scene has nothing to do with, like, Bruce being Batman. It was just a scene. It's just to give him, like, motivation to not like Superman, but, like, him being Batman is still him being Batman. It does, it's, like, it's weird.
And then also, another problem I had with the scene now is if, like, we do find out that he had been Batman by that point, like, during that Metropolis destruction scene. So why was he in, like, civilian? Why wasn't he in, like, the Batwing helping people? Like, it would have been so much more efficient as Batman to help people rather than, like, civilian Bruce Wayne running around helping people. That just straight up doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think it also, even though it's never explicitly said, like, I think this has...
Nothing in this movie is ever explicitly said.
Except for dumb stuff. Like, really dumb stuff is explicitly said, but not useful. And that's why I think it really has to be that this moment is him coming out of retirement. It has to, because you're right. It makes no sense. Like, why would he not be in the Batwing? Why would he not be doing Batman things? Why would he just be an idiot?
He's driving around in a car.
Yeah.
Well, he helicopters first, and then he drives in a car.
Yeah. Also, guys, my fucking favorite part of this whole scene, like, okay, I still like this scene overall. That being said, one, I don't understand why they opened the movie with this, but then also spent the whole movie trying to create more motivation for why Batman would hate Superman, and what I don't understand Lex's plot. Like I said earlier, it doesn't make sense to me that Lex needs Superman kind of being framed maybe for potentially killing some African militia for people to hate him. Mm-hmm. The guy just leveled, like, the biggest city in, like, this fake version of the United States. Everyone would hate him.
And that's what tells me, that's what proves to me that Zack Snyder didn't understand what was wrong with the end of Man of Steel, because he still felt the need to have that scene in Africa to have a reason for Superman to be hated.
Yeah.
But, like, can't everyone see that obviously he didn't need the extra motivation? Like...
I don't know!
I know the man has been through some hard times, but is he just, like, dumb? Like...
Well, but to be fair, the hard times happened after. The hard times happened after this movie. So, yes, he was just dumb when he made this.
Intro... Or I guess, what was this, the third beginning of the movie? The fourth
It's the second. It's only the second. Oh, we got lots of time. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay. In the second beginning. Yeah, okay. He leveled Batman's building and, you know, injured his employees. Not even, like, even if you take it to all of New York, that gives, Metropolis. My bad. Mm-hmm. We all know what it means. They have a Strikers Island. Come on, guys. Anyway.
I know.
But, like, yeah, okay. To take away the fact that he leveled the rest of that great city, that's enough reason for Batman to hate him and Batman's employee to hate him, because even he, I feel like, did more of the, like, framing him in a bad light than even the character they introduced with this extra 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Something, Carol, you're talking about, like, the Wayne building coming down. Nothing made me laugh harder than him being on the phone with this Jack guy and being like, Jack, you have to leave. And Jack turns around and just Metropolis is collapsing in on itself.
Like, he wouldn't have left already?
Yeah, he's like, okay, guys, we should probably go now. And I was like, what?
That was ridiculous. I was like, are they just really dedicated employees? Like, Mr. Wayne didn't say we could leave.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is the scene? It's so...
We're going to get such a good raise.
And also, and this is, again, the problem with everything is, so we have an opening scene that didn't need to be there. If anything, it should have been the death of the Robin. Like, for context, okay? And then we have this scene where we keep cutting to Bruce having a conversation with some fuckhead who we've never... is not a character. Jack? Not a character. There is no one. This guy is nobody. And I can't help but feel like...
No, but Marco, they gave him a name, so you have to care about him.
Now I have to care about him. I can't help but feel like, what if we did both these things at once? What if we retcon the traditional comic story? And what if, like, Batman and his Robin were in Metropolis trying to help, and then Robin gets killed because of the destruction of Superman, and that's the opening scene.
Ooh.
Like, take those two elements, put them together. We do the death of Jason Todd without needing the Joker, and we directly, and, like, if you put that in a movie, I will 100% buy Batman as a lunatic who wants to kill Superman if you put that in a movie where I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, got it, I get it, that's cool, and then he has to like relearn, like, and he has to like let go of his mistake and like become Batman again. That would have been awesome. But no, instead we get fucking Jack, and he's just like, Jack, you better leave the building. And Jack's like, what building, what's happening right now? Like 9/11 is happening outside his fucking window, and he's like, what, where? Like, Jesus Christ. Okay, anyone else have thoughts on the second opening scene?
I think that's it for the second.
I'm good on this
Okay.
scene.
I'm specifically taking a lot of time with the opening scenes because they are an embodiment of everything that's wrong with the movie, and then we'll kind of get through the rest of the plot pretty quick,
Yeah.
okay? So the third opening scene,
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm only bringing up because I noticed something this time I had never noticed before. So the third opening scene, it's whatever, the Indian Ocean, someone's going diving, they find kryptonite. And I was like, okay.
That's before Lois in Africa?
Oh yeah, that's
Oh
before
my
Lois
God.
in Africa. So this scene is mercifully short, thank God. That
Yeah.
being said, the thing that kind of bugged me is until this rewatch, I didn't notice the like Kryptonian machine that Zod was using to like terraform Earth in the background of the shot. And
Really?
yeah, and the thing is, that is a really important context
Yeah.
because why is kryptonite on Earth? Okay, because Zod was literally trying to turn this part of Earth into Krypton,
Yeah.
which is why there are pieces of kryptonite at the bottom of the ocean. Which I think, honestly, like, credit where credit's due, I think that's a really interesting thing because I've always found the idea of exploded pieces of Krypton making its way to Earth as stupid. I've
Yeah.
always been like, I hate that. That's
Yeah,
dumb.
it's dumb.
So this, I thought was cool. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But again, it is in the background of the shot, never made explicit. I would never have even noticed if we weren't watching these movies like directly back to back. And I hate to always compare to Marvel, but when there are like connected MCU movies, I don't have to watch them literally like within days of each other to understand the connections. They do a good enough job of making the important connections really explicit. And my problem with this is, yeah, it's a cool idea, but again, I don't, like, who cares? Like, no one knew that was there.
That wasn't even clear to me
And
until you mentioned it.
I've seen this movie 6 times. I just realized that, like, 2 days ago.
Well, I saw it on Watch 2, so I just want to put that out there for the record.
Wow. Good. Yeah. So that's pretty much all there is to say about this scene. I guess it's pretty much a non-scene. I don't, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just
My only
also
thing
not
is,
really
why
necessary.
did that white guy know to be there? Because he works for Lex Luthor, I imagine, and they just
Yeah.
heard of the ship falling.
I guess, but, like,
Yeah,
how did-
that's implied later.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, this scene isn't even really necessary, or the
Yeah.
exposition later isn't necessary either way.
Yeah, you just cut one or the other. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the fourth opening scene. Oh, by the way,
The worst one.
I just want to talk about, and so I made fun of it in the summary, right? But again, I think it has so much to do with the problems of this movie is we go from a flashback to another flashback because technically the Metropolis stuff is a flashback. So we're literally cutting between 3 time zones in the span of 3 different scenes. And like, listen, we're not stupid. Like, I understand. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's 3 time zones. But it's just one of those things where it feels wrong. Like, when we get the 18th month later and we cut to the Indian Ocean, every time that happens, I feel genuinely like I'm a little bit taken out of the movie. I'm like, fuck, can we just be somewhere for, like, a little bit with characters? Do we have to keep, like, chopping this shit up and moving around in time zones? Like, if we're gonna do a flashback, fine, but, like, to do a flashback within a flashback is just so, like, obtuse to me. It's like, what? I hate it.
Well,
Okay,
I
so-
feel like even if it was maybe in Justice League, where they were shifting between maybe, like, key moments in all of
Sure.
the Justice League members' lives. Okay, fine, give me all your flashbacks as long as you're highlighting, like, one character each time. But just for
Yeah.
this, it felt very unwarranted. I was
Yeah.
like, this is how you want to start a movie?
Absolutely.
Although, we should have known, based on Man of Steel, he loves his flashbacks.
I
So we
guess.
can't be
Oh,
surprised.
yeah.
I guess. But
I didn't really have too much of a problem with it, though, because for me it was just kind of like a short montage of Batman to catch us up.
But it wasn't even
Like-
all Batman.
I guess. But then I wish, honestly, though, I wish if that was going to be the case, I wish we just got, again, and I keep harping on it, but just one compartmentalized, like, Batman opening scene. Like, we don't need the, like, parents' flashback and the Metropolis stuff. Let's just put them together, figure out what we need, put it all in one scene, and then jump forward to the
Oh
present,
yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
you're totally right about merging the scenes.
Yeah, like
That would have been much more efficient.
Yeah, it's for me, it's that like constant thing of just like boom, 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 where I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, like, can't we? Yeah, we should have just had one opening and then gone to the present. Okay, so now we get to Lois Lane in Africa is what I'm calling the subplot, and
I like to call it the white savior scene.
the white savior scene.
Yeah.
I have two big problems with the scene. One, as I alluded to, Jimmy Olsen, who is here's the thing, not an important Superman character, I would say. Like, not essential. But to compare to Marvel, when you look at, and no spoilers.
Oh, is
'cause
this
it just,
the retcon that you mentioned last time that we
Yeah.
were supposed to look out for? Okay.
No, well, there's actually more. But this is,
Okay.
I forgot there's more. But this is
Okay.
one of them. And no spoilers for WandaVision, because I know it just came out. I know Dan even hasn't seen it yet. But I think what the MCU does so well, and I think WandaVision does a great job of it, is taking characters that, aren't important, but like just making them important in like interesting and fun ways that make you as an audience member, like as someone like me who knows comic books, it's rewarding, and as someone who doesn't, they're still just an engaging character on screen. And this Jimmy Olsen thing really like irrationally pisses me off, because it's so quintessential Zack Snyder. I'm just like, fuck you, Superman fans. We're gonna shoot Jimmy Olsen in the head. Poor, sweet, innocent, like just huge Superman fanboy Jimmy Olsen, Superman's biggest fan, shot in the head at the start of this movie. And it just makes me really mad. And then you back that up with the fact that I think Amy Adams is just checked out. I don't know. I kept making fun of her. Guys, is it just me, or is her line delivery in this movie like it's
worse.
cringe-inducing?
Guys, I told you in the last episode, I don't think she's a good actress. Like, I just don't like her.
I think she's a good actress. I think
maybe
she saw...
in this universe, at least. I haven't liked
God.
her
Oh, yeah. No, in this universe.
character at all, at any moment.
And she's even worse. And she's also worsely written in this movie than she was in Man of Steel.
Yes.
She has even less to do.
She gets to sit in a bathtub.
Oh my god, we'll get there. Don't even worry. But I sent you guys a quote when I was watching this movie where the guy's like, he calls her like a woman, and she's like, no, I'm a journalist. And then like 10 seconds later, she's being held hostage, and Superman needs to come save her. And I was like, guys, like, what are you doing? Like, can we like pick a lane here? Maybe do we have to like do this shit?
A lane.
A Lois Lane?
Dan, you always have such good jokes.
I know.
They're not good. Don't validate them.
They are. They're fun, Dan.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Yeah, what do you guys think of this scene?
Superman's
The
butt
scene
chin
sucks.
is really prominent.
Yep.
That's my comment.
This scene is just so This feels like a Michael Bay action scene.
Oh my god, it does.
It
It feels
could
like
be
a
in
Transformers movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see it.
Because it's like just gross. It just looks gross. It feels
Yeah.
gross.
And like Jimmy Olsen, even forget, like, I totally respect what you were saying, but even like someone from my perspective, I didn't know who Jimmy Olsen was, and I like that's fine. I don't care that they didn't do justice to Jimmy Olsen. Like, just as a regular viewer, even just watching this and seeing a guy get shot in the head in like this the fourth intro to this movie, that's very jarring.
Yeah.
In a Superman movie.
Yeah. It's weird. The tone of this feels wrong. My sister walked through the room.
Even
when I
worse
was
than
watching
in
the
Man of
scene.
Steel.
Yeah. Like, my sister walked through the room and she was like, are you watching... I thought you were watching a Batman movie. And I was like, yeah, I am. Believe it or not, I fucking am. Because, yeah. And then also, I hate what the scene represents, because I hate it's this useless subplot that is so integral to the story, but also is, like... The scene in Metropolis is what this subplot is trying to be. And it just really, like, it bothers me.
Yeah, and this subplot was this was my least favorite thread in the movie. It was so convoluted to me.
Yeah.
This whole like setup in the desert that we'll get to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, until
hated
it was explained later by Lois's sleuthing, I was just like, what is going on? First of all, I mean, I barely believe that she was the one chosen to interview this
Jesus
person.
Christ, I know.
And also why she interviewed him for a Metropolis-based newspaper. I don't know. Of all people and places. And then just who was on whose side, I completely did not understand. I was like, okay, very on brand for like the U.S. to be claiming neutrality and then going in there with CIA agents. Sure, if you want to make a commentary on that in the middle of this superhero movie, but it just didn't make sense.
I actually do. I have another major problem with this scene because we find out later that this whole scene is a setup by Lex Landis.
Yeah.
And like that, it was meant to frame, or not frame. It was meant to lure in Superman to save Lois. But how did he get a CIA agent in there?
Multiple.
Are they implying that he has connections with the CIA?
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, so is Lex controlling the
lazy.
CIA?
Well, that's why
How
until
much
it
power
was
does he
explained, I was like, who is on whose side? What the hell is going on?
But like, yeah, I don't know. It's so dumb. And I think it only exists because, one, they didn't realize that they already had this motivation set up. And then two, well, okay, it exists for three reasons. One, they didn't understand Batman's motivation. They were like, what? Like, why would he want to kill Superman? It's like, you already fucking set that up, idiots. Okay, that's one. Two, because Zack Snyder has a hard-on for Clark Kent watching news reporters talk shit about him. Like, I'm telling you, like, no joke, there are, like, 6 scenes in this movie of just Clark watching the news talk shit about him. And we're just watching fucking Anderson Cooper just talking about Superman.
Oh my god, the amount of cameos in this movie is so cringy.
Yeah,
Dude.
so
And I
ridiculous.
felt bad.
Like, sometimes there's one in a superhero
Jon
movie,
Stewart,
and I'm like,
Neil
okay.
deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, no, this was bad.
Soledad
Anderson Cooper.
O'Brien is at the Capitol building that gets blowed up, so I guess she's just dead in the universe of Batman vs Superman. Like, one of CNN's, like, main reporters. Like, okay, great, thanks for that. Like, Wolf Blitzer's in this movie,
and there was
too.
that...
Yeah.
I don't know if this is that guy. I don't know his name, but there was that one interviewer that did that interview with George Lucas. It's like a meme now.
Oh.
And he's like, he got... Do you know his name?
Charlie
Do you know who
Rose.
I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed that guy in this movie,
Yeah,
too.
and-
That made me laugh.
Funny enough, he got caught up in the Me Too movement. Apparently he's a pervert. So, and
Yeah.
now he's in this movie.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so it exists to allow for those kinds of scenes, and it exists to give Lois Lane something to do, because I shit you not, Lois Lane just flies back and forth between Washington and just is holding a bullet and asks questions about the bullet. And I don't, you know, did we need it? No. Because, like, do we need any of Lex's subplot? No. So do we need Lois's subplot about Lex's subplot? Absolutely not. Like, it's so stupid.
I guess they had to give Lex something to do, too.
They had to give the villain something to
Yeah.
do.
Well, so, and here's my biggest, we're gonna get to it right now. My biggest problem with this movie is, this movie, to me, I don't know if you guys agree, right? Like, I would have loved a straight up Man of Steel sequel where Batman is the antagonist. And, like, we don't even have to see Batman's, like, perspective as, like, good guy Bruce Wayne or whatever. Like, straight up, like, Batman is the bad guy, and just have Superman be dealing with Batman. Like, that's such a more streamlined story than needing Lex to be in there and doing his weird Lex shenanigans. So, yeah.
I agree. I think Lex doesn't need to be in this, and I like your idea, provided we still get a Batman movie before.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Just so that the first time you see Batman, he's not just this, like, mysterious, like, just kind of villain character.
Yeah. I totally...
But yeah, I think that that would work for sure.
One last thing I want to talk about in the Africa scene, and then I promise we'll move on. And what I think we'll do is we'll just tackle, like, subplots of the movie instead of, like, scene by scene. So we'll just say, like, this subplot, and we'll just talk about that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're not literally going to go
Yeah, because
individual
it's too
scene
much.
by scene.
But
There's, like,
something
Yeah.
that always bugs me is when Superman saves Lois, okay? First of all, he cripples this guy. He flies him through, like, 6 walls. The dude's dead. You know what I mean? Like, he flies into him. Okay, whatever.
There are lots of guys that die in this movie.
Sure. What really bugs me is that the guy's holding Lois like this, right? And he's like, and he's got his gun. And Superman flies into...
It was really good for the audio.
Yeah, so for audio listeners, just I don't know. You're fucked.
He's holding
like
Lois
this.
around the neck, chest, clavicle area.
He's using his left arm to hold Lois, and his right shoulder is
Also,
exposed.
Marco says audio listeners, implying that we have any
as if we had
visual.
visual.
Well,
yes.
yeah, I listen to a lot of audio, visual.
Me too.
Podcasts.
That's why I
forget.
said audio listeners. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, we are only audio.
Everyone.
For the listeners, period.
Yeah. So, okay, so for context, this guy is holding Lois Lane with his left arm. He's wrapped around her with his left arm, and his right shoulder is exposed. So Superman flies into his right shoulder to save Lois. So, from my understanding of physics, if he's holding onto Lois with his left arm and his right shoulder gets pushed back, his body should swing around Lois, and Lois should like swing in a circular motion. But instead, Lois is just standing there. So did he let go of Lois when he got hit? I don't understand. Like the physics of it. Every time I see it, I'm like, why is Lois not moving? Like she is connected to him.
She should have been blown back.
Like
yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand this scene. It's okay. Okay. Let's deal with the first subplot I think we should deal with. Now that we've got an hour into this podcast that we've got the opening scenes out of the way.
Yeah.
I think the first subplot we should probably talk about is the Superman one, just because it actually has like nothing in it. Like it's so easy to talk about. Superman is given nothing to do in this movie, and
technically he's supposed to write up a story about sports, and he doesn't.
No.
So
I had such a big problem with that. Like, who wouldn't find a story about Batman more interesting than a sports story?
Yeah, I'm like, Perry, what are you fucking doing? Like,
that just never made sense.
is Superman the sports writer, like specifically?
I think
'Cause
he's just
normally
a-
aren't they
I
split up
guess.
like that?
Maybe
Newspaper
he's
rooms?
new, so they give him the shitty stories.
yeah. So apparently he's a stringer. I actually looked into this because
Nice.
yeah, he's a stringer, which basically means that he just picks up whatever needs to be like written for that week
Gotcha.
type thing. So he doesn't really have like his own beat that he's like
Okay.
on.
That checks out.
But yeah, like Dan brings up a good point. Is so basically Superman's subplot on the Clark Kent level is that he wants to write about Batman and how evil Batman is, but Perry wants him to write about sports. And I find this kind of weird because either what Perry's saying is true, and like, yeah, everyone knows about Batman. It's been 20 years. Why would you want to write about Batman? Or, like, we're coming from the perspective that Batman has just resurfaced. So, like, which one of them is right? Because Superman feels like he's in a movie where Batman has just resurfaced, and he's like, oh my god, this is breaking news. But Perry seems to be under the impression that Batman has just been Batman, and like, why would we write about this? And again,
Which is what I thought.
I don't understand
Yeah.
the context.
yeah, I don't either. So that's what Superman's doing this whole movie. He's in Gotham. He's talking to people. They're drawing little bat logos on their scratch cards, and they're saying like, "Watch out, Batman's gonna get you, you son of a bitch." That's Superman's plot.
Okay, the scratch card thing. I
Yeah.
read an article where they were I am going to read the quote. This is done in a particularly clever scene where the older tenant scratches out the bat symbol on a lottery card, which was a neat reveal. I disagree. I think that's so dumb.
Me too.
If
Okay, I
you
just want to
squint,
see
you
if I
can
was
notice
alone.
a little bat symbol on the lottery ticket.
Yeah, that is dumb. So that's pretty much all Clark does in this movie, which is really sad and pathetic. And then the Superman plot.
No, he pulls a boat in the Arctic Ocean.
Well, wait, but that's what I'm saying. That's the Clark plot.
Yeah,
okay,
just
okay,
his
okay.
The
civilians.
Superman
Okay,
plot
fair.
is dealing with his depression about being a hero. And he's being framed for killing some Africans, apparently. And like I mentioned, Elastigirl is prosecuting him because she chairs the committee on Superman. And I guess it's time.
Also,
to talk
Elastigirl
about-
is Holly Hunter, in case people are going to be getting confused. When Marco keeps saying Elastigirl, it's not
Elastigirl.
actually another superhero from another universe being drawn in.
Can you imagine? Yeah, Elastigirl is just in this movie.
They have a cartoon character in the middle of all this.
I mean, we do. At the end of this movie, there's a literal cartoon character. So,
True.
I guess now that we're talking about this, we should probably talk about... Okay, you know what? No. Sorry. Before we delve into that, can we just talk about... I know I said we wouldn't really talk about scenes, but can we talk about Clark coming home and Lois is in the bath naked because, I don't know,
yeah.
they didn't know how else to film her. They were like, just sit naked in the bath. And then in maybe the most like, cringiest things I've ever seen, gets into the tub fully clothed.
Yeah.
As if it's, like, cute. And, like, Lois is laughing like it's cute.
Batman and Lois
Yeah,
have a
that was,
toxic
like,
relationship. Not Batman, sorry. Superman and Lois have a toxic relationship in this film.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it. It's horrible. First of all, the fact that in this scene he like enters and she's just come back from this traumatic thing where he saved her and she's just trying to relax in the bath. He has flowers. Sure, that's cute. First of all, I do not believe that there is a single female on this planet Earth who would not immediately clock the flowers. She was like surprised when he pulled one out of the bag at the end.
Yeah.
No fucking way. She saw that the second he walked in. I saw that the second he was introduced. He brought her flowers. She would have noticed. But then she goes on to this to say that I have the quote somewhere, but I have 15 pages of notes and I don't want to scroll now that we're going
Sure.
out of order. But she says something along the lines of, I don't know if I can be with you or if you can be you and love me at the same time. Something along those lines, which is a very valid point, and that's how she feels, and that's something they should talk about, I
Yeah.
think. Instead of just him being like, no, here's a flower, let me hop in the tub, it's fine.
Yeah.
And he continues to just like fly away from any disagreement they have for the rest of the film, essentially.
I had the
Horrible.
same note, which is she brings up an actual interesting plot element,
Yeah.
and then his response is to just get in the tub, and then just the scene ends. And I was like, okay.
This is not a healthy relationship. You
Yeah,
talk
great.
about your feelings.
It felt like something out of, felt like a 50 Shades
Yeah.
scene.
It did.
It
It
did.
really did.
It did.
Oh, so funny.
That's pretty much what Superman and Clark are up to in this movie. There's really not a whole lot there, other than like when we get to the end, we'll get to it. But since we're talking about Superman being framed and Holly Hunter chairing a committee, I guess we have to talk about Jesse Eisenberg doing a Max Landis impression now.
This whole movie
he's
was
doing-
worth it for that Jolly Rancher scene that you mentioned specifically in the synopsis. I would watch this movie 10 more times just to rewatch that scene. I think it is peak comedy. It is the funniest thing I've seen in the last week. I'm putting that out there.
But are you laughing with it or at it?
I think that's irrelevant. I'll just take the joy it brought me and not question it.
Jesse Eisenberg is doing the cringiest, quirky sociopath impression
Yeah.
in this movie.
I believed he was insane, though. Like,
But,
that
like-
was convincing.
But the thing is, Lex Luthor isn't insane. Like,
yeah.
In
Like, he's
this
not the
world, he is,
Joker.
Marco.
but that's the thing. If you're just gonna have a shitty Joker, just have it be the Joker that's orchestrating all this. Why the fuck are we
True.
having?
He was a better Joker than Jared Leto.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not saying a hell of a lot. Like Jared Leto, another Oscar winner, by the way. Fucking Jared Leto.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think of every time I think of Jared Leto is that moment in Blade Runner 2049, and it makes me cry
no.
every time I think of it. Where, like I think he's talking to like Deckard, maybe, and Deckard is like, do you know what it's like to like have a child? And like Jared Leto just like leans in and just says like, I have millions, and it's just this really like dramatic moment, and it makes me die laughing because it's peak Jared Leto just being a fucking weirdo. Okay.
Yeah. Especially
Jared
knowing
Leto.
he has basically a cult. Probably does
Yes.
think he has millions of children.
True.
What a
So,
dude.
Jesse Eisenberg. Now, as you guys know, I am a big Social Network fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if he had just played Mark Zuckerberg in this movie, it would have been a better
I was
Lex
just
Luthor.
going to say that.
Like, just be Mark Zuckerberg again, dude.
True.
Like, that's literally all you had
Yeah,
to
just
do.
a straight-faced asshole.
Yeah. That's it.
Totally agree.
Like, imagine, like, those scenes when he's with Holly Hunter, a.k.a. Elastigirl, right? And he's trying to convince her. So Superman is basically trying to convince her to simultaneously, I guess, like, he's furthering along the whole, we're going to prosecute Superman, but also he wants her to fund a project for him to make a Kryptonian bullet, but also he's just going to do that anyway. So I don't know why he wants her to fund it. But, anyway, regardless.
Wait, Kryptonian bullet? I missed that completely.
Sorry, like, he wants her to, like, he wanted her to fund him getting the kryptonite to be able to turn it into a weapon to kill Superman.
Yeah.
Oh,
just to have
okay. I
on
thought it was
reserve.
just more of like a general, we should import this kryptonite
Yeah,
to
I don't know.
have.
It's just weird that he does it anyway, though. Like,
Yeah, I noticed that too.
you know what I mean? It's like, okay, but
And there's no consequences.
there's none. And so, like,
He's
I'm
too
thinking
rich.
about
There's no consequences for billionaires.
no. Well,
Yeah.
I guess that is the one accurate thing in this movie. But Like, I'm thinking about that scene where she comes over and he is just saying generic words. He's not even, like, speaking in
Is
dialect.
that the one where he's
And
tapping
just
his hand
shit.
and she stops him?
Maybe. It's the one where there's, like, the painting and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, like,
Yeah, that's the scene.
we know better
Flipping
now.
around.
Yeah, and he's just a fucking weirdo. And then, like, but just, like,
And I'm
imagine...
so tired of these religious references.
I know.
Like,
Dude.
Superman's Jesus and Batman's the devil. That's
It's so
explicitly
lazy.
mentioned in the
Yeah.
movie.
It's so lazy. At one point, by the way, when he's talking about the fight and he's like, Man of Steel versus Bat of Gotham, that's not a thing.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know why it wasn't Man of Steel versus the Dark Knight, because that's cool. Man of Steel, like, Bat of Gotham isn't something that people are known for. Like, why wouldn't it just be Man of Steel versus the Batman? Man of Steel versus, like, something that, like, people actually call Batman by. That's a really nitpicky thing, but, like, yeah. So, anyway, my whole point in all this is just that scene when they're in the room and he's talking about the painting and he's being an asshole. Just imagine, like, the scene from Social Network where he's, like, the guy at the deposition is like, oh, do I have your attention? And he's like, no, like, you have the minimal amount of my attention because, like, the rest of my attention is over at Facebook where, like, my colleagues and I are being fucking badass. Like that, put that in this scene with Holly Hunter. 1,000 times better. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know how anyone saw what Jesse was doing in this movie and didn't immediately be like, cut, dude, what the fuck? Like, you have got to stop.
It just felt it felt so amateur to me. His
It felt like,
performance.
yeah, it felt like, I mean, it genuinely felt like he thought this movie was bad and a joke. And so
See,
he
but-
was just,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's genuinely a really good actor, so I just assumed that he was acting based on specific notes he was given. I assumed that
That's
Zack
probably
Snyder
true,
was just like, I want you to be the Joker, basically. And he's like, okay, fine.
but here's the thing. Here's the weird, this is where things get a little bit freaky. So back in the day, before I knew Max Landis, who was like a scumbag. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Max Landis is the son of famous director John Landis. And he is like a YouTube personality / like screenwriter. He wrote Chronicle. Chronicle is probably the only movie he wrote that actually ended up being any good that people liked. But he also wrote like American Ultra, Victor Frankenstein. What was that shitty
he
name?
wrote
Oh,
American
coincidence.
Ultra?
Yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is where it's weird because when Batman vs Superman came out, and again, Max Landis now, like we know, is kind of a scumbag.
Yeah.
Like multiple women came forward about it, but at the time
Yeah.
he was a like screenwriter, YouTube personality. So I followed him on Twitter and stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, like screenwriter, fun guy. And when this movie came out, he like made a lot of tweets where he was like, "This isn't just like this is literally like I've hung out with Jesse Eisenberg, and this is what he does when he's doing an impersonation of me." Like he was like, "This is literally like his impersonation of me on film." Like it's.
I can't
And
believe he
that's-
admitted that.
Yeah.
Yeah, is he
that's the
proud?
thing.
Amazing.
But no, but that's the thing that's so weird to me is like I agree. I think Jesse Eisenberg is a really good actor. If there's this movie, oh fuck, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a horror movie. I think Maddie and I talked about it on the horror podcast. Anyway, he's in it. He's a good actor. I think he's a good actor. Straight up. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if Zack Snyder said do a Max Landis impression. I don't know if he did a Max Landis impression as like a joke, and Zack Snyder was like, "Yeah, dude, you gotta do it. Let's do it. That's so perfect." Like, I don't know what happened. I just don't. So
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't want to put the blame on Jesse Eisenberg
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I know he has talent, so it's like
Yeah, but anyway, so Lex Luthor tries to convince Congress or whatever to import kryptonite into the docks, right?
Yeah.
And then somehow he's given access. He's given like 100% access to the crashed Zod ship from Man of Steel,
yeah.
which would never happen. They allow him
think
to take the body.
He convinced one of the Congress people.
But
Yeah,
here's
when
the
he
thing.
shoved the Jolly Rancher into his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
but here's
before we go there, I need to backtrack because I think the Jolly Rancher scene is the most important. Part of the reason that I
Okay.
enjoyed it so much is because initially when he picked up the bowl, I thought it was a bowl of only purple Jolly Ranchers, and I was like, "That's weird." I was gonna Google if it was only purple Jolly Ranchers, but then I was really caught up on this detail. It's the only way I made this film enjoyable. But then as we progressed, and then he picked it up to put it in his mouth, he revealed, no, there's cherry in there too. And I got my answer, and I was thrilled. Sorry,
well,
continue.
I'm imagining like those notes that like when Marco watched Man of Steel, they would have those pop-up notes, you know,
yes.
like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Something about the Jolly Ranchers in there.
Yeah, but like to your point, so he feeds this guy Jolly Rancher, but the thing is, like that's not how government works. Like not just like feeding Jolly Ranchers, but also like there's no way one congressman has the authority to be like, yeah, sure, just do this.
Well, they probably cut out the scenes of the one congressman talking to other congressmen.
No, I know, but like they shouldn't. Like that should have been his plot. Like his plot can't just be that he gets everything he wants and then is an asshole.
Like more specifically, an alien crash landed on Earth and they're giving the body of the alien, the first alien they've ever had contact with, to this private billionaire.
Yeah. Like, the more Lex Luthor-y thing to do would have been, maybe we see that there's a congressman who is, like, really, like, gung-ho for Lex doing this and convinces other congressmen to, like, let him do it. But then it turns out, guess what? Lex Luthor kidnapped that congressman's, like, son or something. Or daughter.
Yeah, like, you don't just have it through, like legal proceedings that he just gets it, like
he just gets it
overtly,
and like again,
and that's like public knowledge.
And I guess my biggest problem, and like forget Jesse Eisenberg, let's just talk about Lex as a character in this movie. My biggest problem is that, like, going back to what we talked about last week with Man of Steel, Superman, right? What does Superman stand for? What are the core elements that make Superman in the comics? Obviously, you don't have to do a perfect like adaptation. You're going to change stuff when you bring it to film. But there are certain core things that should be there. And Lex, like, is the embodiment of, like, intelligence and being conniving. And it's the reason, again, you think about, he is Superman's arch nemesis. Why? Because Superman is, like, this godlike powered person. And Lex has nothing except, like, his, like, evil businessman tactics. And what's so frustrating to me is Lex doesn't do anything in this movie. Like, he doesn't have to use his Lex Luthor powers. He is immediately given access to Kryptonite, to the crash site. He doesn't have any struggles with creating Doomsday. Also, off-screen, before this movie has even started, he's figured out who Batman and Superman are. Like, we just completely breeze by that in this movie. He knows who they are. Yeah. So, all we see in this movie is Lex just, like, being weird. And then, like... he gets everything he wants, and then all the evil stuff happens because of it.
How does he know how to create Doomsday?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was just like, okay, he's now just bleeding over this body? What? And then a big thing was born, and I was like, okay, but what happened to General Zod's body?
Well, I guess there's that scene where he's like, that robot starts talking to him, and then, like, he's like, show me everything. So I guess that could have been in, like, the history.
But it was literally a second later that he cut his hand open.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the robot then was like, this is the recipe on how to make a monster.
You're right, because from that scene, I was like, did he absorb all of the knowledge of the history of Krypton? Like, he's still just a human.
Yeah.
And it's been, like, 20 minutes.
Well, here's the problem, guys, right? So ultimately, at the end of this movie, we see Lex talking to Steppenwolf, who is like an agent of Darkseid. For those who don't know, Darkseid is the DC equivalent of Thanos. Funny enough, Darkseid was actually created first. And like, so Darkseid is a character who is constantly searching for this thing called the anti-life equation, which gives him like basically godlike powers. It's basically Thanos and the Infinity Stones. And by the way, this happens all the time in comics, okay? Constantly. Like, one company will do something, another company will do their version of it. That's why there's Deathstroke and Deadpool. Like, and like Deathstroke is Wade Wilson, Deadpool is Slade Wilson. Like, guys, like, this is just a reality in comics.
You mean other way around?
Yeah. So that's what Darkseid's about. And I guess based on, from what I've seen of the trailers of the Snyder Cut, what we're going to get in the Snyder Cut is obviously Darkseid is the big bad. Again, 3 movies in, no big deal. We're just going to... Instead of 20 movies to build up to this thing, 3 movies, cool. And then also, none of it is explained here, but like, wouldn't it have made more sense if Lex was like communicating with Darkseid, and like Darkseid taught him how to make Doomsday to kill Superman, so that way Darkseid could invade Earth. Like, wouldn't that have been interesting? Like,
yeah, because I still don't understand what's bringing Darkseid to Earth.
I don't either, buddy.
And what we're supposed to be worried about.
Well, that's the thing. Despite the fact that all of these movies have aliens, actual aliens, I feel like what DC's problem so far has been is that they try to still make everything so Earth-based. Like, they have aliens, and sure, in Man of Steel, we had the way too long scene on Krypton, but it still just feels too human, too Earth-like. At least in all of the Marvel stuff, they embrace the alienness and will have full movies set in space, and they'll put you into that world and give you more of that backstory. But here, they're just like, no, of course, every planet in the universe is obsessed with Earth for some reason. Yeah. And they all know English, and they all look like humans, and that's just how it goes. So sure, there's aliens.
Yeah, the universe doesn't feel as rich.
Yeah.
Well, and
so
it
just doesn't make sense.
It's because, again, to go back to it, it's at the helm of someone who fundamentally only cares about superheroes when they're gritty humans. You know what I mean? Like, that's all Zack cares about when making these movies. And so it's like, you lose any sense of...
Why is he making superhero movies then?
I don't know. I don't know. He claims he loves these characters, and I just don't understand how you can make these movies and then also say that you love these characters. Because, like, and I joked about it, but, you know, outside of the costumes they wear, nobody in this movie acts like their characters. Like, not, again, of course they're going to make changes. Of course Christian Bale Batman is going to be different from Robert Pattinson Batman. Like, sure, there are going to be variations, but at the end of the day, like, what is Batman's, like, you know what? I'm done talking about the Superman shit. Let's talk about Batman. Fuck it. It's time. I've waited long enough, guys, okay?
Sorry, before we talk about Batman, because I think it's going to take a while, can we talk about Alfred?
Well, we can talk
about he's so hot.
He's way too hot.
And so young.
He's like the same age as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That's played
weird.
Scar.
Yeah, it's Jeremy Irons. Yeah.
Scar is Alfred. What the
Scar
fuck?
Scar is Alfred. So, let's talk about that. So, there was this interesting line of comics that they did called Batman Earth 1. I think we talked about it a little bit when we did our, like, Batman trailer review. And the idea was that it's like a young Batman who, it's almost like even more real than the Christopher Nolan movies of, like, literally, like, real Earth. Like, someone's parents get killed. Like, how does this person go about becoming Batman? And in those comics, they introduced the idea of Alfred being, like, this like, British intelligence, like, super spy, basically, who is a little bit younger and who, like, actually helps train Bruce and is more of a part of him and, like, his tactics and whatnot. Which clearly, very clearly, and even, like, in the look of Alfred in those comics and this Alfred.
Very heavily inspired.
Yes, but... And, look, one of the notes I actually made a note about this, is I like Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I like Alfred being a bit more present in the, like, the man in the chair role, quote-unquote, because that's something that cool. Comics have adopted that recently. I like that. I like Alfred taking over, like, the remote thing to fly the Batplane. I like them constantly talking. That, to me, was, like, I like that. That feels like comic booky Batman. But Alfred is literally Bruce Wayne's age. And the problem is, if you're going to do a young, hip Alfred, then fucking Bruce also has to be young and hip. Like, they both can't be 50 years old. Like, why is he his butler then? That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
So dumb. Okay, guys. Now we're talking about...
Wait, also there's a scene where Alfred chops wood.
Damn.
Yeah.
In this
we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
He chops wood, picks it up, brings it inside Bruce Wayne's fucking, like, bedroom, puts it down, and then is like, hey, Bruce, like, where are you? And that's the scene. Like, that's where the scene ends.
And that was an Ultimate Edition edition.
Yeah, and I was sitting there and I was like...
Wow.
It's like,
yeah,
why?
I remember that.
Why was he bringing the wood inside the bedroom of this boathouse? Why? Like... Is there a fireplace in there? I don't think so. I don't remember seeing a fireplace in there.
I think there must be somewhere.
I don't think it's like a glass. It's all glass. There wasn't a chimney.
Well,
I also hate the look of that set. I don't like how, like, it's not Wayne. Oh, we need to talk about Wayne Manor too. But so Wayne Manor in this is, like, decrepit and, like, in ruins basically. So Bruce is living in, like, this sort of it's a mansion that looks like it's in a marshland. It's like it's really foggy and it's like in a swamp. And I hated the look of it, to be honest.
Me too.
Sorry, is that
I also didn't like the look of the Batcave.
Is that just outside of Gotham? Like, where are they trying to say that this mansion
Yeah, well,
is
it's
located?
implied that it's just outside of the grounds of the manor because he passes the manor on his way out, and the manor is usually like just outside of the city limits.
I think it's supposed to be
very
like the
country.
I think it's supposed to be like their boathouse or something.
Okay.
I think it is even referred to.
But it's much more modern
But he
looking. It's not
lives in
gothic
it.
enough.
Absolutely, yeah,
And
I
has
agree.
sex in it?
Oh, he has lots of sex in this movie. Apparently, for some reason, Batman has time to have sex. That is like, again, talk about like quintessential, just not giving a shit about Batman. I guess Batman's just a womanizer in this movie. Like Bruce Wayne is a
he does say
fake.
specifically, pretty girl, bad habit. Don't quote me.
But like that's
Yeah, that was so out of character.
But that's like fake. That is okay, guys. I need to calm down. Let's stick to what we're talking about. So, to Dan's point, I'm gonna not derail everything about the Batcave. I also feel like the Batcave looks too modern. I like when the Batcave looks like a cave and is kind of spooky
And gothic.
Now, I totally get that's not for everyone. I totally get I have a very narrow view of what I like the visuals of Batman stuff to look like. I like it to look gothic. I like it to look out of time. It kind of looks like that's what they're doing with the Batman, Robert Pattinson's movie, which kind of makes me happy. This, to me, yeah, I think it looks a little too modern. That's not, again, if this was a good interpretation of Batman, who cares? But it's
Sure,
bad.
yeah.
So I'm going to point it out that it kind of bugs me.
Yeah,
how
but
it
I don't know
looks.
why they made the decision to completely abandon Wayne Manor.
Well, because I'm assuming you would have to assume that Wayne Manor burnt down in some, again, like 20 years before story, whether it's maybe Wayne Manor burnt down when Jason Todd in this universe died. Maybe the Joker like found out who Batman was, broke in, like killed Jason Todd and like burnt down Wayne Manor. Maybe the Nightfall story happened. Maybe Bane showed up and like broke Batman's back like it did in the comics. Like, there are lots of reasons why it could be. Are any of them explained? Are any of them hinted at? Are we ever going to find any of them out? Does any of them, by the way, have anything to do with the plot of this movie? No. So
No,
why is
but
it
they
in
could
here?
have, because if it's true what you're saying, they should have had a point of emphasizing the state of Wayne Manor, and then at the end of the movie maybe hinting at the rebuilding of it.
Yeah.
Because it like that makes me think about the Nolan trilogy where it's or Batman Begins specifically, where it burns down and then it's rebuilt by the time of Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. And again, and like we're talking about, right? Like, none of this stuff is explicit, but then when you look at all these context clues, plus when you're me and you have like all this comic book knowledge, then you start to put it together and be like, oh, I guess that is what they're going for. But also, they do such a horrible job of explaining that it, it just sucks. It sucks because you're just left with these dumb questions, and it's like, why did you make these choices? And I shouldn't have to like fill in the plot. I shouldn't have to like create these elements.
Shouldn't have to make headcanon.
You shouldn't have, exactly. You should not have to make headcanon to make the plot of the movie work. Like, it should work on its own. And all right, that's my segue into talking about Batman finally. So,
Okay.
if Batman in this movie is meant to be a Batman who stopped being Batman, then from his anger about the Metropolis incident comes out of retirement, but is a not good Batman, right? We get lines from Alfred that are directly from Dark Knight Returns. The line where he's like, when Bruce is like, oh, we're criminals, Alfred, we've always been criminals, like nothing's changed. Direct quote from Dark Knight Returns. Again, though, that book has context of like, we've seen who Batman is, he's stopped, he's come out. If that's what this is supposed to be, then I am only okay with his killing if we get a reversal at the end of the movie where he fully embraces like being Batman again. As the movie stands, they never A, make clear that that's the plot. B, we get no reversal. We don't ever understand, okay, is this Batman just always a killer? Is he only killing because of his past experiences? And we never have the moment where he like chooses to be Batman again and stop killing, which for me, And, like, Zack Snyder can say whatever the fuck he wants. Like, he's gone in interviews and said, like, yeah, if you think, like, Batman would exist but not be a killer, then you're an idiot. And I'm like, well, then you're a fucking idiot because you don't understand the point of this. None of this could exist. So the point of Batman as a character, his fundamental thing is not killing. Like, that is the one thing that if you change about Batman, he ceases to be Batman. And I understand that everyone's going to say, oh, well, Marco, what about in, like, the early comics in the 30s and 40s when Batman carried a gun? And it's like, yeah, but that was, like, before. That was before, like, what Batman was. Those were dumb, like, pulp action adventures. Like, it had nothing to do with who the character of Batman would go on to become. Pretty rigidly, since, like, minimum the 60s, if not earlier, we have really nailed in this idea of I don't kill and I don't use guns. Like, to a fault. And to have that be false in this movie and to have it never be explicitly addressed makes all the other stuff, which I'm going to say it, a lot of the visual imagery and a lot of the direct references to Dark Knight Returns, and, like, I'll call a bunch of them out, just to be fair, are cool. And I think they're cool, and I like that they're in here as a Batman fan. But if you're going to do all that without also having Batman be Batman, then what's the fucking point? Because, like, it's not fun. It's not fun for me to watch someone that's not Batman do the things I wish I could watch an actual Batman character do.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
My whole question is, why did he keep having so many dreams? There were so many times where I was like, is this reality? And we just skipped ahead or skipped back? But no, it's always a dream.
That we're going to talk about that scene.
We'll talk about dreams.
We'll get there, but it really fucked with my idea of what was going on and who Batman was.
I'd say even more so than at the beginning where there's like a flashback and then a flashback that is more recent and then it's like modern time. That was what you're talking about, Carolina, is even more disorienting.
Oh yeah.
In Dark Knight Returns, before Batman becomes Batman again, he is plagued by, like, recurring nightmares and stuff. But those are all very specifically about him, like, remembering his origin, remembering the death of his family, and it's this idea that, and that comic does something really interesting, which is it has Bruce Wayne have voiceover box, but the voiceover isn't Bruce Wayne, it's like Batman, like, speaking to Bruce Wayne, and it's almost this idea like he's completely suppressed this part of his personality that's now, like, it's trying to come back out. So I'm assuming that's why there's a lot of, like, weird dream-like things in this movie, but again, just ripped out of context, just we're going to put them in this movie, and it has no bearing on anything, and it is extremely jarring. I think at least, we'll say the Justice League setup one, and we're going to talk about that one in detail. The one that sets up the Justice League, you could kind of explain away in a later movie by actually being, like, a vision because of, like, the Flash's powers. You could kind of explain that. The one that really pisses me off is when he goes to, like, the mausoleum and fucking that monster shows up. I would, like, remember there's, like, that jump scare.
Yeah.
That's the one that really pisses me off because I'm like, fuck you. That's nothing. That is a literal shitty horror movie jump scare in a 3-hour movie.
It's like the jump scares in Mother.
Mother. I want to talk about one element of Batman's plot here, which is the branding.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we need to talk about that.
I'm a little confused by this, and I've seen this movie 6 times. So here's what I think. I think the movie is trying to say that Batman started branding criminals at some point because he got, like, really more mean, which I don't know. Is it because he came out of retirement? Who fucking knows? But at some point or another, he starts branding criminals, but then I think Lex Luthor is paying other criminals to kill those criminals in jail to make it look like Batman is intentionally branding criminals to be killed.
That was my question. I was like, why are the people being branded dying? Because Batman has nothing to do with that.
Okay, but if that's the case, if Lex Luthor is paying these people to kill the criminals Batman brands, why, again, Batman, world's greatest detective, smartest person on Earth, always has, like, 16 plans ahead. Don't you think he would just, like, read a newspaper and be like, I should probably stop doing this then since these people are all getting shanked in prison?
But also, what was Lex's motivation? To make Batman look bad?
To make Batman look bad, so that way Clark would not like Batman.
So he could pick a fight with Superman and Batman to kill Superman,
the fight couldn't
even
be
though he has
one-sided?
No, yeah. Even though he has an alternative method to kill Superman, which does end up killing Superman anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think this is my thing outside of Batman killing that I find so frustrating is that Batman is so easily being played by Lex Luthor, and I don't understand why. Like, those two things together really frustrate me. Is that as cool as you are making Batman physically, as much as he looks like Batman from the comics, as much as he moves like Batman from the comics and fights like Batman from the comics, like, he's an idiot. He's a fucking moron in this movie. And it's so annoying. And I hate it. And, yeah. And then Lex also... And I joked about it in the summary, but whether it's creating Doomsday or just using the kryptonite to make a weapon, what is the incentive? Because I think it's also implied that he pissed Batman off enough to come steal the kryptonite from him to turn it into a weapon to kill Superman. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Dude, why? He is a man. You know he's a man. And then also, Lex... Okay, so if Batman is coming out of retirement, which a lot of plot clues point to, why would Lex assume that Batman could kill Superman? How would he even know who Batman is if Batman has been in retirement since Lex was a kid? Like, it doesn't add up. None of it adds up.
I don't know.
What's Lex's obsession with Batman? Why does Batman have to be involved at all? Why?
But also, when Batman was going to steal the kryptonite from Lex and then Superman stepped in...
Yeah.
First of all, how did Superman know that was going down? 2, did Superman have any idea what Batman was trying to get from Lex? Did he care at all? Was he... Like, it just seems too good to be true that Superman stopped Batman from getting this thing that would be killing him. And Superman had no knowledge of it and no questions and just showed up and pushed his car away and they called it a day.
Yep. Oh, I hate that scene for a lot. The dialogue in that scene's awful. It is...
Makes no sense.
The delivery is also awful.
It's like, so you get the line that I don't mind. I don't think it's a poorly written line where he says, next time they shine your light in the sky, don't go to it. Which I think is a decent line. Except, the bat signal has not been used in this movie at all. And so, like, here's the thing. When Batman shines it at the end to bring Superman to him, I think that's kind of cool. I like Superman saying, even though it's totally uncharacteristic of Superman, saying, like, don't go to the light the next time they shine it, and then Batman's like, fuck you, and he like shines it to bring Superman to him for them to fight. Okay, that works. Except, how does Superman know about the bat signal? Because again, Superman...
He doesn't know who Batman is.
Superman, flummoxed by Batman, has no idea who this person is. But also, when Batman goes to the bat signal, it's been draped over, as if he's been in retirement and hasn't been working with Jim Gordon. He pulls a drape off of it to turn it on. So what the hell is the timeline of this movie?
Maybe Zack Snyder also had an additional, like, 10 minutes of conversation in that lottery reveal scene, in the scratch card reveal scene, where he also tells Superman all about the bat signal, and he just had to cut that for time, too, you know?
I'm sure.
He had to cut all the important stuff for time.
Yeah.
But he left in all this useless shit.
I love, or I hate, do you bleed? I hate that line.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and here's what it's a reference to. And I know you guys are glad that I'm here to explain to you all these references. But I think it'll really show people how dumb this movie is if they know what the source material is. So, in The Dark Knight Returns, in that very sad Batman-Superman fight at the end, he's basically, as he's fighting Superman, he has this inner monologue where he's thinking, like, how sad he feels that Superman has lost his humanity. And he's like, oh my god, like, you think you're a god now. You think that you are perfect and you can do no wrong and yada, yada, yada. And there's this, like, really cool moment. It's like a splash page where it's, like, Batman punching Superman and he has, like, kryptonite and he, like, draws blood from Superman's mouth as he punches him. And, like, the caption of that page says, it's time you learned what it means to be a man. Because, like, he's like, again, like, all his monologue is like, oh my god, like, what has happened to you? Like, you are not a person anymore. Which is, like, a cool moment. And so they take that and they turn it into Batman asking, do you bleed? and then Superman doesn't answer, flies away, and then Batman just whispers, "You will," and it's like, I don't like. Who thought that was better than what was in the comic? Why would you adapt it that way? I don't understand.
Yeah, and there's so many comments in this movie from Batman to Superman about being a man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like pick a lane. You know what I mean? It's like if you're gonna adapt this element, then like be careful in how you do it and actually adapt it properly, and don't just do nothing. You know, like this movie is just so much nothing. Like there's just so much nothing in this whole movie, and it's so frustrating.
But okay, we also need to talk about the scene with the checks, because I don't understand what was going on in that scene.
Okay.
So there's a scene where Bruce receives a bunch of checks that he sent to LexCorp, like he was funding something at LexCorp.
No, he sent them. If this is the same one, I think he sent them to that guy that had his legs cut off.
Yeah, but I don't know why those were sent back.
Yeah, I don't get that scene.
So
I don't understand.
Here's the thing. Yeah, those are sent back, and it says like a lot of weird shit. And then
it's like Lex taunting Bruce.
Yeah, and then when the Capitol
to amp
building
him up for the fight.
When the Capitol building blows up, it says like "ha ha ha, you let your family die." And I have a theory about this. I don't know if you guys are gonna believe me, but here's my theory.
I'll believe anything after watching this movie.
I think way back when they shot this movie, I think this was supposed to be from the Joker. I think there was supposed to be some Joker callback. Because this scene makes no fucking sense. Who is his family? How does Lex...
It doesn't.
Because the only way, in my mind, maybe I'm wrong, the only way this scene makes sense is if it's the Joker taunting Bruce about the Joker having killed Robin. Because on the Robin suit in the Batcave, we see it literally says "ha ha ha."
I was gonna ask about that.
And we get
the writing is like the same.
Yes, so it doesn't make sense. But then we get that scene with Lex and Superman on the roof, where Lex is like, "Oh, just a few letters, ha ha ha! You let your family die," and now he's all angry at you. And it's like, none of this makes sense to me because I don't know. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I've already felt like in the narrative, everything Batman's done in this movie since the destruction of Metropolis. Everything. This whole subplot with, like, trying to get the kryptonite and all that has been with the purpose of trying to take down Superman. So, this scene, in the context of the movie, like, being the catalyst that really puts Batman over the edge, and he takes off his shirt and starts smashing a tire with a fucking thing, and he's like, now I'm gonna fuck you up.
Is
like,
that how people actually work out?
No. I mean, maybe like some people, but...
Also, why was it raining in there? Why was there so much water coming from
I don't know.
It's a cavern.
It was working out.
Okay, but here's a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How come that made him angry at Superman?
I don't know.
Why did that fuel the fire of him and Superman instead of him and Lex?
Okay, the way I interpreted it, and this probably isn't what Zack Snyder intended. I don't know if he had a reason. I assumed that the checks that were returned were, like Marco said, were sent to the dude who lost his legs as a Batman being like, you're part of the Wayne Corporation family. We're looking out for you. And the fact that he sent them back and didn't cash them is him for some reason blaming Bruce for him losing his legs, and maybe then Bruce gets mad at Superman because it's actually Superman's fault. I don't know.
Okay,
it's a stretch, but that's the only way I was able to explain it.
So here's the thing. I think maybe I figured it out a little bit, Carol. But then I also want to answer Dan's question because that doesn't make sense either. Yeah. So here's what I think. Here's what I think the movie's trying to say. I think what the movie is trying to say is that clearly Lex has been taking these checks without this guy knowing and is now writing on them and sending them back. And I think B, to Carol's point, and I didn't put this together because it's so dumb, but at the beginning of this movie, like, Bruce shows such fucking care for Jack in this building.
Yes.
And I think when the check says you let your family die after the Capitol building blows up, I think he's supposed to be taunting Bruce about this fucking guy in a wheelchair that worked for Wayne Enterprises. Like, I think that's literally supposed to be what he's taunting him about. Which,
yeah, that's what I got from it.
Which is dumb. That's really dumb. But
also, your family?
Yeah, like your like it's like
Like
Fast
his
and
work
Furious family. Like, and then here's the other thing, though. To Dan's point, who does Bruce think Superman is sending these to him?
Yeah.
Like, and
That's what I'm saying.
if that's the case, like that just makes Bruce even fucking dumber in this movie than he already was. And if he doesn't think it's Superman sending it to him, why would he pick a fight
Who
with
does he
Superman?
think? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, my head hurts. I don't get
Okay,
it.
but we need to backtrack. I think we need to backtrack a bit because we need to still talk about the dark side scene.
Okay.
The flash forward.
Let's talk about... Yeah, okay, how about this? I have an idea. Let's talk about that, and then let's transition from that into talking about the general, more like Justice League-y elements, like world-building elements in this movie, because that is also a through line in this movie that's really fucking dumb.
It's so tacked on.
Yeah.
This scene that we're going to talk about with Bruce's vision
Yeah.
has nothing to do with this movie.
No. So, yeah, go for it. What do you guys want to talk about with this scene?
Okay, so as Carol alluded to, there's a couple dream sequences in this movie had by Bruce Wayne, and one of them we've talked about already. The other one is he's downloading a bunch of data or something, researching LexCorp or whatever, and he falls asleep right at his desk, and all of the sudden we are put into this it's so jarring. All of a sudden we're put into this dreamscape of, I guess, Metropolis. Is it Gotham City or Metropolis?
I think it's supposed to be Gotham.
Okay.
But it
so
looks
Gotham
like a
City,
desert.
It looks like Metropolis at the end of Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And there's a giant, Omega symbol carved into the ground. So
that's Darkseid symbol.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's supposed to reference Darkseid, who we talked about earlier. It's like the Thanos of this universe, even though he was created first.
Do
but
the
we're gonna refer to
Mothmen
him.
work for Darkseid?
They're not Mothman. They're
Yeah.
parademons. They're called parademons.
they
And
look
yes,
like
they do.
Mothman.
They
Yeah.
are the soldiers of Darkseid.
I was really confused.
I bet you were.
Yeah, because there's no explanation about this scene, and it's so tacked on and has nothing to do with the plot. But so Batman is in this duster, which I thought looked stupid with the I know that's not a new thing. There are fans of that look, but I don't know. I didn't like the look of this duster coat with this
very not
Batman helmet.
In
It was
my
weird.
mind, yeah.
And he's using guns. This is the one scene where he's explicitly shooting people, killing people with bullets, and he's what was the whole he was at a deal for something. What was the was he
Kryptonite.
at?
Yeah.
He was
Was it
looking for...
kryptonite?
Yeah, he was supposed to be buying some kryptonite.
Because this whole flash forward is this is what Superman is going to bring to the world.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand. Is he attracting Darkseid to Earth? I still don't know what is going to be what the reason. What's the build up for Darkseid coming to Earth?
So here is what I think. And what I think is based on obviously what's presented here, comic book knowledge, but also with the Snyder Cut coming out, I've been deep diving into a lot of what Zack has actually said, and even prior to Justice League coming out, there was a lot of information we knew that Warner Brothers kind of pushed aside. And also listen, I don't particularly like Zack's work, but also Warner Brothers is kind of being sketchy because in my opinion, these are all bad movies, but you made your fucking bed. You told this guy he could make this series of movies. Just have him finish it, just so we get our answers, and then just be done with it. Stop pushing it away, because the more you push it away, the more fans of it are show us what happened. So just let it happen. Okay. Now that being said, I believe that, and there are storyboards from 2014 that you can find that show this, that the original plot of the Justice League movies was going to be that in Justice League, which now is going to be the Justice League we're going to see, Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's technically Justice League Part 1. And in that plot,
Wait,
Superman
the 4-hour movie is part 1?
Oh, yeah, it's only Part 1. So
Yeah.
in that plot, Superman is going to come back, yes. He's going to wear his black suit. He's going to be Black Suit Superman, cool. The League is going to form, but then, I believe, if I understand correctly, the League is going to form to defeat Steppenwolf. But then Darkseid is going to show up, use the anti-life equation to essentially mind control Superman, and that's why... And then I think that movie was going to end with this nightmare sequence, apparently, where like the world is in ruins and there's like a few ragtag people together, and Batman basically tells the Flash to like go back in time and warn him, so that way in Justice League Part 2 there can be some weird timeline shit where they fix everything that happened. Okay, but none of that makes sense because
it doesn't.
Because
sorry,
we are watching the original timeline that's going to lead to those events. So clearly the Flash going back in time didn't fix it. And also what he says,
oh my god,
makes no sense. All he says is Lois is the key.
Batman never even follows
he says
up with
Lois
that.
is the key. No, he says Lois is the key, and also you were right about Superman. He is not, like, if he's coming from the future where the Justice League is formed, why would he be saying that about Superman, that he was right about judging him?
This is what doesn't make sense, because so if it's a universe where the Justice League has never been formed and Superman is taken over by Darkseid with the anti-life equation, and the Flash's only contacts with Superman is Superman as this mind-controlled villain, I understand that line of dialogue. But as per the plans, the plan is that yes, the Justice League is like to some degree formed. They do work together to some degree, and then Superman is mind controlled. So Flash knows that Superman isn't normally an asshole. So like what does this line of dialogue mean? Unless I don't know. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to mean. To be fair, the only thing I can think of is I don't think he ever explicitly says Superman. I think he just says you were right about him. But then when he says like Lois is the key, it's like, okay, so clearly you're talking about Superman, but none of that makes sense. And then also...
But then also, like, before that, we see Superman, like, he's leading Darkseid's troops, and he, like, unmasks Batman, and then he talks, like, Lois is dead, apparently, in that timeline. Yeah.
So, and then when this movie came out, we all thought that was a reference to the Injustice universe. So the Injustice universe is actually just video games.
But like where Superman goes bad or whatever.
Yeah, right? And in the context of those video games, basically what happens is like Superman and Lois are having a baby, and the Joker kills Lois, and then Superman kills the Joker, and then that kind of creates this conflict between Batman and Superman, which then results in like superheroes taking sides, and it ends up in this like civil war. Really, this is all just like for the purpose of having a game where characters fight each other. It's just like a Mortal Kombat game, but with DC characters. So that's why this exists. But when this movie came out, like we, and by we I mean like people like me, all kind of thought, oh, when he says like Lois, like is this a reference to the Joker having killed Lois, and like that's what's going to make him go bad? Maybe. But then again, in these storyboards and these pitches that have come out in like the last week for Zack Snyder's Justice League, apparently Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane get into a relationship after Superman dies, and Lois is pregnant with Bruce's kid. And so like it turns out
that's really messed up,
that when Superman says you took her from me, what he really means is like you stole my girl, bro. Apparently.
That's really messed up.
It's so, and like it's maybe that's not what's gonna happen. Maybe that was just like maybe those are fake. Maybe that's a fake leak. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see.
That has to be.
We have to see what happens in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I don't know. In Zack Snyder's world, it seems like Lois Lane truly would not be there without some kind of super entity watching her back. Maybe she just did it as self-defense. Because this girl would have died 10 times if Superman didn't have the supersonic hearing.
Yeah.
So maybe she's like, he's gone. I need another person just so I don't die.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate that. I hate that. I've never... There have been times where like... So there's like a funny like subplot thing that happens in comics sometimes where like Lois is like attracted to Bruce, but like Bruce obviously does not give a shit about like women whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then but Clark knows Bruce is Batman, but also is Superman, and like Lois is into Superman, but like not really into Clark, and they're just friends. And so there's like this weird like fucking thing, and it's a thing that's happened before in comics, but it's always just like dumb. It's like a dumb like side thing that's happening as like a running joke. You know what I mean? It's never like the most integral plot point in the entire cinematic universe. Now, I also just hate this nightmare scene because it's just dumb. It's just dumb, and it stops the movie. Like I don't think I've ever seen a movie that truly just stops halfway through to take this much of a detour.
And never explain. Like, maybe they will in a few movies from now, but
yeah.
To have it be so unresolved in the movie that we're in.
Yeah, it's wrong. You can't have a whole scene that doesn't pertain to the movie.
Yeah.
It acting as a trailer for a future movie.
Yeah.
That should have been like an end credit scene.
I was just going to say, this is a post-credit scene. That's all the scene is.
Yeah.
It's a post-credit scene that they put in the middle of the movie. And I'll never forget. So, like I said, I saw this movie a bunch in theaters, but the second time I saw it was with our friend Rachel, who is like she's like an MCU fan, but doesn't really have a lot of like DC comics context. So we go see this fucking movie, and that scene happens, and I'm just watching her the whole time, and she's just like, "What?" and then at the end of the scene, she was like, "Oh, okay, it was a dream." And then the Flash shows up, and is like, "Bruce," and Rachel just turned to me and was like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. So, speaking of all these Justice League subplots and about Bruce like decoding this file, I do want to say that I love Wonder Woman. I think they did a really good job casting her, and obviously, like in her own movie, I think she's great. She doesn't get too much to do here. She kind of pops in and out, and it feels weird that this is technically the first time we've cinematically seen Wonder Woman, like not her own movie. But the scenes...
Same with Batman.
The scenes with Wonder Woman, it's even worse because we haven't really had like a...
She's really just tacked on.
Yeah, and also the context of like we haven't had a big budget female superhero movie, and this is like the first big one that's gonna happen, but it turns out she's just like a C plot in this movie, and then we'll get her own movie later. It just feels dumb. It's like you should have just made a fucking Wonder Woman movie. So,
yeah.
One thing I do like, if we're gonna talk about Wonder Woman, I've always dug in the Justice League cartoon from like the DC animated like cartoon universe. They always like played with the idea that like Batman and Wonder Woman kind of had a thing, which is fun because everyone always assumes it would be like Superman and Wonder Woman because they're like powerful, but it's actually like Batman and Wonder Woman, and they had like really fun chemistry in that show, and it was never like explicitly like they were together, but more just like they were flirty sometimes. And I really like in particular that one like party scene they go to. It's like some kind of museum exhibit where
After
they're like
steals the thing from him.
Yeah, and they're like and they're like talking and stuff, and she's like, shut the fuck up. Like, here, I'm gonna give it to you. Relax. Stop being a fucking asshole, Bruce. And then like Bruce is trying to be flirty, and she's like, yeah, well, you know what I mean? But I feel like as actors, they have good chemistry together. I like seeing them on screen together, and it reminded me of that cartoon, which made me happy because I was like, oh, that's fun. But it turns out he ends up with Lois in this universe, so I guess I get wrecked. What did you guys think of?
I still don't believe that.
Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out.
Less than 10 days.
Yeah, so Wonder Woman shows up in a couple of scenes. Like we said, pointless. Before I get to the end scene, though, I made a note about something I want to talk to you guys, which is we get that ridiculous scene where Bruce sends her an email that has all the logos for all the Justice League members.
God.
Now, there's a lot of dumb stuff that happens in the scene, a lot. But the thing that stuck out to me is that she opens this email. First of all, no one writes an email the way Bruce writes an email. It's like every thought is like a new, like 6 lines in.
And she's just scroll down.
Yeah, she's just scrolling. Okay. Then you get to the attachment on the email, and this attachment is a file that has 4 videos, 4 high-quality videos, and the file size on this attachment, because they bothered to animate that, was like 10 megabytes. And I was like, no, it wouldn't be 10. If you're going to go to the length to edit that into the movie, like to animate that, because clearly it was just like green screen, like it's not real software, it's like fake software, like generic email, like just fucking make it like 5 gigabytes. Like, why would you make it?
You know what my problem
megabytes?
was? I didn't notice that. That's a good point. I didn't notice that. But you know what my problem was? Each of the videos are edited like a movie.
I know. I think
especially
them.
Especially the cyborg scene. It has like jump cuts for dramatic effect, but it's supposed to be like just lab footage.
It's so
stupid.
What a terrible way to introduce the extended universe.
The Justice League?
And like, what a late, like Cyborg, like you introduce the mother boxes from Justice League in this, like, what?
Yeah, and we don't know. Like, at this time, we don't know that means anything.
Exactly. We don't know what that means at all. The Aquaman one is... it's laughable.
Yeah.
He just, like, swims out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God. Like,
yeah.
So basically,
and then
it
the
just
Flash
proves
one,
there's a
it's...
merman. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't do anything cool.
Yeah.
And then the Flash one, like, this is the second time now that we've technically been introduced to the Flash in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, I never even thought of that. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a question. When Wonder Woman was first introduced at the party at Lex Luthor's house where he gives that horrendous speech that gave me anxiety.
It gave me anxiety.
My God.
I couldn't. I was like, shut up. You have to stop.
But why does Wonder Woman look like she recognizes Batman? Like, before he even went downstairs and was sketchy and set that thing up. She, like, looked at him like she knew him. Why?
You mean Bruce Wayne? Like, she
Well,
knew
yeah,
who Bruce
yeah,
Wayne
yeah.
was?
She, like, was staring at him intently. Like, she knew
know.
exactly who he was and what he was doing. Or was it just a
Probably because he's a...
Like,
Maybe. It could have just been...
Oh, like that she knew what he was doing there? Like, why he was there?
yeah, she just, like, the second they introduced him, they just shared a look. Like, almost similarly to when Superman heard... I guess I should use their not super names, but it's too much work for me.
Yeah.
But when Clark Kent, using his Superman hearing, heard Bruce Wayne having this conversation with Alfred, and like that's when he tuned in and was like, "Oh shit, that's Batman?" ? And so he had this weird look of recognition at Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman had a similar look of recognition before even he went downstairs. Before.
Yeah. Does she have super hearing?
Yeah, that's my thing. Does she also have super hearing?
No, I think that's just one of those things where the filmmakers like really focused on that because we as an audience already know that she's been cast, but it doesn't make sense in context. It's like one of my favorite things in Star Trek 2, like Into Darkness, like the new Star Treks, is when like Benedict Cumberbatch like pauses and we zoom in on his face and he just says, "I am Khan," and like it's supposed to be this big dramatic moment, like, which obviously for people that know Star Trek it is, but in universe, like Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto are just like, okay, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like
it's the first time we're introduced to him.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of this is. It's like it's trying to make a cool moment where there really shouldn't be one unless you know like who that character is. It doesn't make sense in the story.
Yeah.
But talking about that scene, we should talk about the scene. Because it sucks. It's really bad. And like we talked about, I hate that Lex Luthor off-screen figures out who Batman and Superman are. And I hate how little it matters that Superman figures out who Batman is in this scene. There's a really great, in the DC, like, animated universe, they did a crossover of Batman and Superman. And it was like a Batman-Superman movie. And there's this really cool thing where, like, Clark Kent is reporting on Bruce Wayne being in Gotham, and so they have like a friendship, but then like Batman and Superman get into a clash, and like there's this fun moment where Superman uses his X-ray vision to find out that Bruce is Batman, like when Batman's in the costume, and he's like, "Oh shit, like you're Bruce Wayne," and Bruce is like, "Hey, what the fuck, man, like that's not cool, you can't do that." But then it's fun because later that night Superman goes home and he's like getting undressed and he like looks at his suit and there's like a tracer on it, and he looks at the tracer and he looks out the window and Batman's like outside with binoculars and he sees that it's Clark Kent, and then he just kind of gives them like a little salute and he just jumps away, and it was just like this fun moment of like, aha, like they both like use their like awesome powers to figure out who each other are. In this movie, Clark just hears that Bruce is talking to someone and is like, "I guess you're Batman, I'm just gonna assume," and then Bruce, by the way, never figures out that Clark is Batman. Like which again, Bruce Wayne in this movie, a fucking idiot, the smartest man alive, completely useless. But
well, that's
somehow,
what I'm saying. The Lois hint that the Flash gave meant nothing. He didn't look into it at all.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't find out until Superman died and Clark was dead, and he put it together.
It's so bad. It's so lame. It's like, this is the first time we're seeing these characters on screen together. Like, it should be fun. Like, I want to see like them do fun shit and like interact in fun ways, and this is one of the few interactions we get with them, and it sucks. And a note I made is like, I think, by the way, I do think Ben Affleck does a good job of playing like Batman and also like billionaire idiot Bruce Wayne. Like, I think he does I think Ben Affleck is perfectly fine in this movie as Batman. And I like in the scene when, yeah, like when he's talking to Clark and he's kind of just being an asshole, and he's like, oh yeah, Daily Planet, like, do I own that one? Do I own the other one? Like, I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, that reminds me of like Dark Knight trilogy Bruce Wayne, of being like, oh yeah, it should be fine, I own the place. I was like, yeah, okay, like, that's fine, I like that. But like, am I the only one that got like really weird vibes when Clark just would not stop asking Bruce questions about Batman? Like if I was Bruce Wayne and there was this asshole that just kept asking me questions about Batman and whether or not I think Batman should be okay to be Batman, wouldn't the normal response be like, bro, I'm not the fucking mayor. I'm not the police commissioner. Why are you asking me, a dumb private business owner, what I think of Batman? Like, wouldn't that raise suspicion? Why is Clark asking like 10 million questions about what he thinks of Batman? And then Bruce, fucking, again, complete idiot that he is, just decides to start taking shots at Clark out of nowhere. And it's like, oh my god, what is happening? And then Lex shows up, and it's like, when Lex, it's just the quintessential Lex Luthor scene. Because he shows up, and he's like, like, I love bringing people together.
Quintessential of Lex Luthor in this movie, yeah.
Oh my god, dude. And like, and he like smacks Superman, and he's like, I would not pick a fight with this person. And it's like,
yeah.
It's like, what movie is this
and
guy
once
in?
again, there was like a weird sound effect when he hit him.
Yeah,
just
but
to
in this
prove
one,
he's
it's
like made
dumb.
of rock.
Yeah. God damn, I fucking like. It sucks. This scene, I think, might honestly be the worst scene in the movie. Like, because everything has so much letdown. We don't get a cool interaction with Wonder Woman and anyone. Lex is cringy. The Bruce Clark meeting scene could have been so fun and cool. Like, I just think about, remember in Infinity War when like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Tony Stark end up on Titan?
Yeah.
And then the Guardians of the Galaxy are there, and like
yeah.
all that dialogue is hysterical. And like Doctor Strange is like, what master do you serve? And Peter Quill's like, what do you want me to say? Jesus? Like, what are you fucking talking about, bro? Like, this is what this scene should have been. It should have been so, like, fun. Like, not even silly fun, but it just should have been interesting. It shouldn't have been, like, weird. And Lex shouldn't have shown up to make it awkward.
Yeah.
That's what he does best.
That is the only thing he does in this movie.
You know, one line I did like from that scene is when Bruce is like, Gotham just has a weird history of freaks dressed like clowns.
Yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah.
That was
pretty good. It was a good... That one was in the trailer. I remember that line being in the trailer, and I was like, oh, that's a good line.
Because it makes sense. Like, obviously, who wouldn't know about the Joker? But even if you didn't, it would still, like... It doesn't not make sense in the movie, but it's a nice, clever nod to the Joker.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if Clark hasn't heard of Batman, he probably hasn't heard of the Joker. So that probably went right over his head.
No, but I mean, like, audience members.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do we want to... I think we've talked about all the plot stuff that there... I mean, there's so much plot, but, like, I don't know how much... We should probably talk about the ending is what I'm getting at now.
Yes.
Before we get into
that... Well, I mean, first we should talk about the actual fight between...
Yes.
Batman
oh my god, how could I forget?
Right.
And then the warehouse scene, too.
Then we have to talk about the warehouse. Best scene in the movie. Definitely.
And then the finale.
And then the finale. Also, before we talk about all that, I want to talk about one more thing, which is similar to Jimmy Olsen. There's a character in the comics called Mercy, and Mercy is basically Lex Luthor's Harley Quinn, except instead of being like a weird in love with him person...
Oh, the Asian girl.
Yes, she is a total badass, like, secret agent, like, cool person that's kind of always there to be the, like, physical presence to Lex's brain, in a way.
She was always there.
Yeah, until she gets name dropped once. And by the way, in this movie, she is just an assistant. Yeah. She is just like, hey, don't go in this room. And then 5 minutes before she dies, she gets name dropped, and she gets name dropped only to die. It's like the Jimmy Olsen scene again. It's like, hey, here's this character. And I was like, oh, that's Mercy. And then she dies when the room blows up. And that was another one that really got me. Okay, let's talk about...
Oh, yeah, and we didn't mention that, like, Lex bombs the Congress building.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Lex... Oh my god, guys. Wait. I have a note about this, because this leads to one of my favorite things in the movie. Okay, Lex bombs the Congress building, which I guess is Superman's last straw in his depression. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Superman...
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about.
Okay, so... Okay, this movie, again, written by Chris Terrio, who wrote The Rise of Skywalker. At the end of the second act of The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo Ren has this moment where he's like, am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? What the heck? And has this, like, a conversation with a vision of Han Solo, who is his dad. Except Han Solo's not literally there. It's more of like a vision in his head, but like also it's Star Wars, so maybe he is a ghost. We don't know, but also no, he's not there. Okay, in this movie, Superman at the end of the second act goes to the Arctic and has a conversation with the quote unquote maybe a ghost of his dad, which is my favorite thing ever because Chris Terrio just copied and pasted the fucking scene and just changed the character names essentially. Like, it's so pathetic.
That really got to me. I was just like, why here of all places?
So, here's one other thing I want to say though.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you gonna like make it make sense? Because I don't.
No. I'm gonna make it make less sense. So,
Okay.
as we know, as we Superman fans know, in the comics, Superman has the Fortress of Solitude. Fortress of Solitude is in the Arctic, and it's this place that is essentially this like Kryptonian dome that he lives in, where he keeps all his Kryptonian stuff. Now, in these movies, we've never really done that. We've always had the crash site spaceship be his version of the Fortress of Solitude, where he talks to his dad and stuff. Normally, it's in the Arctic. I thought, when we first watched this movie, as, you know, a comic book fan who likes good comic book movies, that when Superman went into the Arctic, it was because he wanted to be alone in this moment after everyone talking about him.
He wanted to be in solitude.
And he was going to create the Fortress of Solitude so he could be alone and, like, find his strength. No, he doesn't. Also, the other thing, before he leaves, he is standing outside Lois Lane's balcony in his Superman costume. First of all,
away from an argument.
First, yes. Mm-hmm. Second of all, red flag. Why are you in your costume with Lois Lane? Don't you think that would, like, be suspicious? Don't you think people from the street would be like, hey, why is Superman, like, with Lois Lane? He's pretty identifiable. Third of all, here's a line that he says, okay? I want you guys to tell me what's wrong with this line of dialogue, okay? Lois is like, oh, like, the symbol, it means something. It means hope. And Superman says, quote, all this time I've been living my life the way my father saw it. Superman was never real, just the dream of a farmer from Kansas. End quote. Okay, now, am I wrong in thinking that in Man of Steel, Jonathan Kent was so vehemently opposed to Clark using his powers that he let himself die?
Yep.
Okay.
Like,
what
his
is
worst
this line?
nightmare would be Superman, essentially.
Yeah, like, what is this line referring to, is what I want to know. What does this mean?
Can you read the line again? I don't remember this line.
Okay. Yeah, I'll read it again. It's literally, I wrote it down. All this time, I've been living my life the way my father saw it. Superman was never real, just the dream of a farmer from Kansas.
So the farmer from Kansas is his dad, not him.
Yes.
Is what it's implying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Superman was never the dream of John Kent.
No. You know what this smacks of to me? It smacks of Chris Terrio, when he was writing this movie, just didn't watch Man of Steel. And it was like, well, of course Jonathan
Probably,
Kent...
because he wasn't involved in it.
He was like, of course Jonathan Kent would, like, want Superman to be Superman. Why would they have made a Superman movie that wasn't like that?
Like, if you're gonna write a sequel, can you not take 2.5 hours out of your life to watch the movie that came before it? Even just the immediate movie? Like, if it's a...
Even watch
if
it at,
it's
like,
a
2
second
times
sequel.
speed. But just watch it.
Sure. Or read the script.
Yeah.
If you're the script writer.
Well, here's the other thing, though, is that Chris Terrio co-wrote this with David Goyer, who wrote Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So, like...
Well, I bet one of them edited, and then one of them... Like, he probably wrote the first draft, and then maybe David S. Goyer, like,
I would
finalized
assume
it or something.
But, like, did no one catch this? Like, no one. Zack Snyder didn't catch this? Like, literally...
He doesn't care. Zack Snyder doesn't give a shit.
Like, he probably doesn't even remember what he set up in Man of Steel.
Yeah, he probably was like,
In, like,
oh yeah,
3
that
years.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so that sucks.
Okay, what was the scene we were going to talk about now before we got to this?
Now we have to talk about the Batman-Superman
The fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, like, the whole reason people, like, were drawn to the movie.
Yeah.
This 10-minute fight
Well,
scene.
because it is Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like I said, especially at the start of the fight, a lot of visual imagery to Dark Knight Returns. We got Superman hovering over Batman in his cool mech suit, which I think does look cool. I do stand by that. In the comic, they have the fight in Crime Alley, which is where Bruce's parents got killed, which is,
Ooh.
you know, a bit
Why
more...
would they do it there?
Well, because basically in the comic, the government, because Superman is an agent of the government says you have to take Batman down. He can't operate anymore. And then Superman, being the guy that he is, like, asks Bruce. He's like, I'm going to do this. Where do you want it? Like, I'm going to give you time.
Gotcha.
And Bruce says, like, okay, where this all began. And then they have the fight, like, at Crime Alley, which is, like, so cool. And this movie is just somewhere. It's wherever the bat symbol is. Oh, speaking of, like, seeing Batman, like when he was hanging on the ceiling like an idiot, the first shot that we get of Batman in his cool suit isn't the shot of, like, Superman staring down on him and we get this cool shot of Batman in the suit. It's just him walking around like an idiot, like planting the spear in the ground. It's so dumb. I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like, Zack Snyder, again, self-proclaimed, like, visual storyteller, and the first shot we get of Batman in each of his costumes, he looks like a fucking doofus.
Yeah, but also I'm a little confused with the geography, because doesn't the fight end up in Wayne Manor?
No, I don't think it's supposed to be in Wayne Manor anyway.
I don't think that was
Like,
Wayne Manor. I think it was... It looked like the same place from Man of Steel, like a Grand Central Station type place, or like a government building in Metropolis. Something like that.
I guess I was confused because that was the scene where he started talking about his family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I've always assumed that it was at Wayne Manor.
Well,
I guess not.
to be fair, Zack Snyder doesn't know how to film anything. Like, everything looks the same. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, and Wayne Manor's in ruins at that point.
yeah, so, like, a decrepit building just looks like a decrepit building. So, I don't know. Maybe it is Wayne Manor. I don't fucking... I mean, here's the thing. Again, like, you would think this fight should be somewhere symbolic. Like, the location
Somewhere
of the fight.
important.
Yeah. Again, like, Crime Alley. That's cool. No, I don't know where this is. It's just someplace.
And, like, where would it be that it had so much water?
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is what I'm...
No
I
idea.
don't know.
This building that's also drowning.
What did you guys think of the fight? Because I thought it was kind of lame.
During this,
I mean-
I wrote a note saying, fight scenes are very boring to me, is what I've discovered. Maybe just specifically these, but this is the movie that made me realize I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So I was just waiting for it to
For
be
me,
over.
it was like... I didn't care because I didn't care about the characters that were fighting.
Yeah.
I could have forgiven it for being a low-key fight. Like, I don't demand a fight scene to be super insane to be good, but, like, it has to be dramatic. It can't just be empty. Like, there are some things in the scene where, in and of itself, it's fun. It's kind of fun to watch. Like, this is it's one of the most fun parts of the movie, I guess, compared to, like, most of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it's completely, like, miserable looking and stuff. But I don't care. Like, the characters are not well set up.
No.
Superman had a pretty mediocre first movie, and Batman hasn't even had his own first movie yet. So it's like, you know, with this scene specifically, you can't not then think about Civil War, which came out a few months after, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And all, like, the tension between Cap and Tony in that movie is perfect, because not only have they had at least one movie each, they're like multiple movies. This is like years within the series for that movie. So it's all like the foundations are there, but with this, it just, like, the foundations were not at all. So that it felt completely empty to me.
Yeah, I've always felt like, well, personally, like, first things first, I only find Batman and Superman being antagonistic interesting when it's built upon the idea of we already know they were friends.
Yes.
Like, otherwise, I don't care, because it's like, it's nothing to me. I only find it interesting because Superman is, like, the only person that Batman, outside of, like, Robin's, like, considers to be a part of his world in a way, where, like, even Batman's involvement in the Justice League is through Superman as, like, his friend. And so, yeah, like, to have them fight, like, first off the bat, as the first thing that they do, was always dumb to me. But then when you so poorly set up why they're fighting, it is so boring to watch. And again, in a lame location, like, the lighting and everything, it just looks gross. None of the choreography's fun.
Well,
and you
he
compare
ripped
it
a
to
sink off the wall. That was fun, right?
I mean, no.
Oh, and fun fact, when Superman throws Batman through the wall, it creates a hole that's shaped exactly like Ontario.
I'm not even kidding you. I noticed that this time. I was like, oh my god. Yeah,
I actually did remember specifically looking at the hole being like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's Ontario.
Fun.
Yeah, because it looks like a whale, and Ontario looks like a whale.
Yeah, something else.
Aquaman reference?
Oh. Well, let's wait till later in this movie where I did actually, the first time watching it, think we were going to get Aquaman. But, yeah, I don't know. This fight is kind of lame. And when you compare it to something
Oh my god, are you going to talk about when Lois throws the spear into the water?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
When, I guess the thing for me is like...
I never
Why
thought
would
about
you
that.
be in that water in that building?
Why would anyone
this
be
little
in
pool.
anything? Why is Wonder Woman in this movie? I don't know. Where did she drop from? They're in the middle of nowhere, and she drops and blocks the laser.
Maybe
from where?
she jumped out of that plane.
The invisible jet? The invisible jet that we won't see until fucking 10 movies from now? Like...
Well, no, she was in a plane getting ready to leave the
She
country
got
when
off.
she was watching
Remember?
the news.
She
But the
starts
plane wasn't in the air.
Well.
She starts
Maybe she
walking
waited.
off. And, like, the flight attendant is like, Mrs. Prince? Like, where are you going?
Yeah.
And she's like, I gotta go be Wonder Woman. Fuck you. So, okay. Anyway. Let's get back to the fight.
Okay, yeah, back to the Batman-Superman scene.
Yeah, when you compare it to something like The Matrix, where, for me, I think action is interesting. Like, choreography in and of itself can be interesting, but it needs to be backed up, like Dan's saying, with, like, drama. And I think, I don't know if you guys remember, I mean, just before this movie came out, actually, 2015, like, Mad Max Fury Road comes out, which, like, everyone hails as this amazing movie, and that movie is 90% action, but it's all action that is built around, like, really easy to grasp, like, dramatic stakes that, like, progress the plot forward. Whereas this, to me, is, I don't know what this scene is. I get why Batman hates Superman, but also it's dumb. Like, it's simultaneously over-explained and under-explained, because we have so much motivation, but none of it really clicks for me. I don't know why Lex wants Batman to kill Superman. I don't know why Superman bothers going through with this fight. By the way, worst line...
It's really dumb.
Worst line reading of the movie isn't Lois Lane. It's not. Worst line reading of the movie is when Lois is on the ground after Superman has saved her, and she turns around and Superman's there, and she goes and she says, "What's happening?" And he says, "I have to go, like, kill him, or else, like, Lex is gonna kill my mother." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And Superman just goes like, "Or else she'll die." And he just does this weird, like, turn, and like, and I was like, "Do you guys know what I'm talking about?"
I have a note
I don't.
specifically saying,
Okay.
what is that face he made?
I didn't
when he's
notice
talking
that.
to
I can't
her?
believe I didn't notice
I'm
that.
going to screen grab it, and we have to post it on our Instagram. It is the
No,
derpiest.
use it as the thumbnail for the episode.
Okay, yeah, let's.
Perfect.
It's the derpiest. I was like, oh, like, this was like the last take of just like, whatever. Like, we're just, I think we have it.
Before
but
lunch.
just for, like, coverage, whatever. Like, this was not supposed to be in the movie. It is so weird.
It's so funny.
I thought you were going to talk about the line where he's like, there's a line he says right after that where he's like, "Not everyone stays good," or something. You know what I'm
That
talking
line
about?
is also so dumb.
In general, the whole fight
Yeah.
scene had a bunch of really good lines. I particularly liked when Batman said, "My parents taught me the lesson: die in the gutter for no reason at all." Like, really? That's the lesson they taught you? That's what the quote you're going to tell Superman?
Yeah, Batman.
But the whole scene is so stupid because,
Yeah.
like, it would have been so easy for Superman to just talk it out, and that's what
Yeah.
he was, I guess, trying to do.
Yeah.
But Batman, or Bruce, like you've said before, is such an idiot in this movie.
I know.
He's just so quick to, like, harp on him, start attacking him.
Yeah. Here's my favorite thing in this movie, and I wish it's my favorite part of this fight, and I also wish it was the thing that ended this fight, because I think it would have been such a fun subversion of people's expectations. People would have been pissed. They would have been like, "Oh, we didn't get a Batman-Superman fight," but I think it would have been way better. Is at one point, like, so Superman lands, and he's like, "Bruce," and, like, Batman's, like, shooting guns at him, and he, like, launches flamethrowers at him, and Superman, like, goes through all that,
Yeah.
and he's like, Bruce, you don't understand. And Batman, like, walks up to him and gets right in his face, and he screams, I understand! And then as he's saying that, Superman just, like, flicks him, and Batman just goes flying through a wall.
I loved every time that happened.
I love that. I was like, oh my, that, to me, like, what I was talking about earlier with, like, the Clark Bruce moment, how it felt so, like, why are we even doing this with these characters?
Yeah.
That was such a good Batman Superman moment, of Batman just being, like, thinking he's such a badass and, like, using his Batman tricks to be intimidating, and Superman being like, fuck off. And, like, he literally just hits Batman and Batman goes flying. I was like, that should have just been the end of the fight. Just end it there. He flicks him, Batman goes flying, Superman walks over, he's like, hey, Lex Luthor is engineering this whole thing. And Batman's like, oh, okay, I guess. And then, like, just end it. Like, we don't need a dumb fight. Like, that was more than enough for me.
No, Batman definitely had a little too much testosterone in this film. Like, it was very much, he's just like, I am the toxic man. I've grown up in this world of toxic masculinity, and this is now why I react like this. I get mad at Superman, I work out for a week, I hit a tire, and then I want to kill him. No, but no, he could have killed him because he did have a bullet capable of just one shot. But no, first he had to weaken him so they could fight it out, punch to punch like men. Because that's the only way to really resolve a problem.
Yeah. I guess, like, we're talking about Batman being, like, such an idiot in this movie, and also being, like, I think the thing that I find so frustrating about Batman is that this is a movie for people that like Batman because they say that they don't like superheroes, but they like Batman because Batman's dark and gritty. You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, the thing that people who really don't care about this shit, like, tell themselves to justify why they like Batman. And it's, like, the lamest interpretation of Batman, and it's so boring. And, like, Batman can be such a more dynamic and interesting character when he's not just, like you said, Carol, like, just the embodiment of a toxic man, but is, like, a really smart person with, like, specific trauma from his past. Like, I feel like a lot of writers, when you read Batman or see Batman in, like, animated stuff or movies or whatever, they always, like, frame Batman's no-kill rule around the idea of, well, if I kill one person, then I'll just kill everyone, which to me is, like, again, stupid. Like, my favorite interpretation of Batman is that he is this, like, really smart person who has this trauma and, like, literally, like, physically is incapable of killing people because, like, he will have, like, a mental breakdown and panic attack because of, like, his experience with his parents. Like, that's so much more interesting to me, of, like, man, don't you fucking wish I could kill the Joker? I wish I could kill the Joker, dude. I wish. I can't. I literally can't. It is not within me as a person, and, like, that's where this rule comes from. But yeah, no, in this movie, he is just a toxic asshole who sucks. And this fight is
He's perfectly ready to kill Superman.
And this fight's the embodiment of that, and it ends, guys, take it away. We know how this fight ends. How does this fight end?
Martha! Superman calling his mother by her first name in his moment of what he assumes to be death, because of course.
Yeah.
Not my mom.
No.
Mom,
and the funny thing is,
Martha.
It would have made sense if he just said, they're gonna kill my mom. Like, that still would have connected with Bruce.
Yeah.
No.
But they realize they both have mothers named Martha, so we have to use that.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that this is something that was written and then filmed and then released.
And people thought it was
good.
And
then edited.
Yeah.
Guys, I need to remind you. Was
it edited?
Before this...
This is all raw footage.
I need to remind you guys, before this movie came out, Zack Snyder aired this 3-hour cut to executives at Warner Brothers, and it was reported that they gave this movie a standing ovation after it finished.
I remember that.
I swear, you can find the article.
It's a bunch of executives, so they don't know anything.
I swear. And that was, again, I was like, oh my god, this movie is going to be so good, like, before it came out. Yeah, this scene sucks. And, like, everyone always tries to frame it as, well, no, it's because he's finally learning that, like, Superman is also a person who has a family. And I was like, again, though, like, I get that, but how stupid is this Batman that only now is it dawning on him that this guy has a family? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
And also, to extend it further, I can understand that making him reverse the decision to kill him and, like, to go help his mom. But then to take it as far as, like he like at the end of the movie he's like, I failed him, he meant so much to me, like we need to form a team to make up for his death.
Yeah.
Like, where's this coming from?
It's coming from nowhere. It's so unrewarding and it's so frustrating. Yeah, when he says that line, when he says, I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death, I was like, dude.
He knew him for like
You jazzed me.
30 minutes.
I was like, dude, 30 minutes before he died, you were going to kill him. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was
It's
just maybe
so
some
lame.
instant trauma bonding. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
It sucks.
But they just became best friends in
Yeah,
that
so anyway,
instant.
yeah, he finds out that he has a mom and that her name is Martha, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go save your mom, which is fun. I mean, the idea of Batman going to save Superman's mom is fun.
I like
And
that.
the scene which we're gonna talk about is like the action is actually like the best action in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, inarguably.
The warehouse scene for me is, I think it's my favorite scene from this movie, hands down, and also I think it might be one of the best like Batman scenes we've seen being put on film. Like, in terms of
Whoa.
Batman being Batman. It's perfect. But before we get there, I do want to say two things, okay? One, before Bruce goes to save Martha, he says the line, I promise you no Marthas will die tonight. Or no, he says, I promise you Martha won't die tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A little on the nose for me. Like, I get it,
A little?
but I was like, eh. Like, I do actually really respond to, like Dan's saying, the idea of, like, Bruce feeling like, and I think it's what makes the
Feeling obliged to save a mother.
I think it's what makes the warehouse scene so powerful, like, outside of just the amazing action, is also, like, I fully understand what Bruce is doing. Like, in this scene, like, this is Bruce, like, it's his power trip fantasy.
That is the one scene. You're right. That is the one scene where the drama backs up the action.
Yeah. Because you totally understand. It's like when you're watching that scene and you're seeing Batman be a badass, and it's like, because, like, this is what he wishes he could have done to, like, save his parent. And it's like,
Yeah, I get what this is for.
Totally get that, and I think that's so cool. I hate the line of Martha won't die tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I have to tell you guys, and you're not going to believe me, and I read this on an article somewhere, is
boy.
that early in the development for this movie, Zack Snyder was trying to find a way for them to be brothers. For, like, Martha to be the same person.
No, he was not.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my
He
God.
was. I swear to God.
Oh
I
my-
swear to
But
God.
he's Kryptonian.
No, yeah.
Oh, you mean?
adopted.
Sorry, you mean
Well,
like
he's adopted.
his adopted?
You
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be the alien mom.
Yeah. So, like,
I didn't know that would have been.
He could have tried that
That
too.
would have been
I think the idea...
too far fetched for this movie.
I think the idea would have been that, like, Martha and Thomas Wayne are both shot. Martha actually ends up surviving, but, like, can't deal with it, and so, like, runs away and marries Jonathan Kent and becomes a farmer.
Wow,
And then they, like, adopt Superman.
that's dumb.
It's awful. If they did that, dude,
So what happened? So that she abandoned Bruce
I
as
guess.
a child?
I guess.
Left him with Alfred.
I guess.
That's
It
stupid.
sucks. I'm glad they
That's
didn't do
really-
that, because it sucks.
Can you imagine?
Also, I have to tell you guys one more fun fact. My sister saw this movie when she was in, like, grade 8. They took her on a field trip to see it at school. I don't know why.
Okay.
Wow.
But she saw this movie, and at that scene when he was like, "Save Martha," and Batman's like, "Why did you say that name?" One of my sister's friends, who doesn't know anything about comics, turned to her and was like, "Oh my God, they're brothers." And my sister was like, "Are you a fucking idiot? Like, no, that's not at all what's happening here." Okay,
So I guess
Okay.
it wasn't that much of a stretch.
let's talk about the scene
'Kay.
that we've been waiting to get to.
Wait, one more thing. We need to. We kind of alluded to it, but then Lois inexplicably takes the spear, the kryptonite spear that Batman was about to kill Superman
Oh my
with, and
God.
tosses it into like a pond.
I think that was to
For no
hide it
reason.
from Superman's other enemies. She was just like, they won't find it here. Whoop.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know,
Why else?
because then she's the one to go look for it. Like, it's dumb.
Well, because
Well,
she
here's why-
couldn't have
She
known that
creates a
there'd be
problem.
another villain who could also only be killed by the spear. Like, in her mind, it's just, this is the thing that can kill my boyfriend. I don't want
Yes.
it here.
But like it was far enough away. Like, she creates a problem only to solve her own problem later.
she couldn't
That's
have known.
the thing. That's the thing. And that's my problem with Lois in this movie, is that she just is there and just goes between places but doesn't really do anything. Like, it's almost like, it's like the difference between like distance and displacement. Like, she has a net displacement of 0 because everything she does, she immediately has to like go back to. And that's my problem, is that she throws the spear in the water and then I guess just stands there for like 20 minutes and then Doomsday shows up, and then I guess somehow, because Batman says, oh, he's Kryptonian, he can be killed by kryptonite, to Alfred. And then Lois,
but she knows,
is just like, I guess knows that, and then jumps in the water, but then gets trapped and almost dies.
That was my thing. How did something fall from her jumping in? Like, there wasn't really anything there.
Dude, I don't know, and it's so funny. Like, it's unbelievably funny to me
because they needed another damsel in distress moment with Lois Lane.
Yeah, and I don't know why. Like, you could have just had a moment where Superman said goodbye to her. Like, he didn't need to save her from the water first. Like, you could have had a moment where maybe Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all, like, talking with, like, earpieces or something, and Batman is like, oh my god, like, we need the kryptonite spear, and maybe Wonder Woman, like, gets the kryptonite spear, and then Superman, like, knows what he's got to do, and, like, says goodbye to Lois. Like, we didn't need this dumbass scene where she, like, kills herself first. Like, it's so dumb.
Maybe they just wanted it to go full circle with the bonding in water moments, You
know what? I genuinely think you're right. I think it's for that.
I'm artistic sometimes.
But, like, now that we're about to go into this warehouse scene, Lois really... Well, this is obvious, but Lois literally didn't need to be in this movie because the fact that they took Martha... I can't believe I was struggling with that name. The fact that they took Martha hostage, and then they just, like, they took Lois hostage just to get Superman on that rooftop with Lex.
Yeah.
But I feel like they could have streamlined that and just used Martha to, like, leverage him there. Like, Lois, her whole thread in this movie is, like, completely extraneous.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dumbass Lois stuff, and I know this jumps back a little bit, but I have to point it out. I don't know if I'm the only one that caught this. So Lois discovers that the bullet was a Lex Luthor bullet or something. And so she figures out that Lex Luthor's framing Superman and that this whole Capitol meeting is a plot to, like, fuck with Superman.
Yeah.
Right? And then, as she's going to the Capitol meeting, she calls Perry White and says, hey, we need to, like, print something in the paper so Superman, like, knows that, like, this is a trap. And Perry's like, no, why would we do that? This isn't a news story. And then, like, she goes there and is, like, trying to, like, get to him to tell him it's a trap, but she's too late. And I just, like, how fast were these papers going to be printed? Like, I don't understand this. I genuinely was like, I think I missed something. I was like, was there a time jump? But there couldn't have been a time jump because they're sleeping together. Like, she would have just seen him and been like, hey, by the way, it's a trap. Like, she's clearly on her way.
Why does she need to communicate through the paper?
Yes!
Wasn't that also when he ran away to, like, talk to his dad? Was that at the same time? Because if so,
no,
why
that was before.
Okay. So I was going to say, would he see a newspaper
That's what
from
causes
New York
him to go away.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah. I don't know. I just remember that right now, and I was like, I wasn't gonna.
Why are they communicating like the beacons in Lord of the Rings?
But also, he can hear her, like, screaming for her life from apparently across the world.
Okay.
Can't she just yell?
Yeah, she could have just whispered it.
Lex
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Why the newspaper?
Because so the idea of Superman. There's this fun thing in comics sometimes where, like, Superman always, like, keeps tabs with his super hearing on, like, certain people in his life he cares about. So it's like his parents, Lois, and Batman normally are, like, the ones where he's always like, oh shit, like, something's wrong with this person.
Fuck the rest of the Justice League.
Yeah.
So I've always thought that that's, like, a fun thing, but you're right. Because sometimes in comics, Lois will just be like, if she's trapped, we'll just be like, like, I'm fucked, like, I'm saving her, whatever. And, like, Superman, like, no. So, like, why wouldn't she literally just be like, it's Lex. It's Lex, Clark, it's Lex. Like, why wouldn't she just do that? I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Anyway.
Okay.
This warehouse scene.
We're going to end on a good note.
Is cool.
Yeah.
Do we have anything
okay,
to
next
say
scene.
I do. No, I have a lot to say. I have a lot I can say about this scene. I think from start to finish, this is a perfect scene. Like, I love like Alfred taking over the remote control of the thing.
That's cool.
I love Alfred being like, oh, there's like 16 hostiles on the 3rd floor. Why don't I drop you off on the 2nd? I love when Bruce goes to jump out of the thing and the bat plane does a little kick to like just give him enough like energy. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I like the shot of Bruce like crashing through the window as Batman. Again, very cinematic Batman.
Yeah, with the
tension of all the guys like staring at the floor, and then the fight. And like Dan will obviously be with me on this. This is just like an Arkham fight scene brought to life. But the Arkham games are like, that is like, when I think of how Batman would fight, it is those games, right? He comes up through the ceiling, nobody knows where he is, he shoots those things on everyone's guns to turn them off, which I love, because in the Nightmare fight scene...
That's literally a mechanic in one of the games.
In the Nightmare scene, there are guys with guns that are just standing there waiting for Batman to be ready and then go to hit him with a gun physically. Like, if you watch that scene again, the choreography is awful. Like, there are guys just standing around waiting for Batman. And it's like...
Yep.
It's so bad. But in this, I love it. He like, stops their guns from working right off the bat, which, again, awesome. Fucking drops down. And, yeah, it's just... It's so fluid.
I feel like Ben Affleck directed this scene.
Because it's too good?
It just... Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But also because it's like a Batman-specific scene.
Yeah.
Like, I would believe that he took over directing for this sequence.
Absolutely. It's so good. And like we said, the stakes are so clear of he's trying to get to Martha to save her. And yeah, I mean, he fucks up all the guys in this room. I love, there's that scene where there's like 4 guys, and as he's like dodging one guy, he's like hitting the other 2 at the same time. And I was just like,
and he's on the ground.
I was like, oh my God. Yeah, when he's on the ground and he's like...
And he takes the thing that he was stabbed with and like stabs the other guy back with it.
But
you know what my favorite moment in this scene is? When he grapples the guy towards him and then punches him right in the face and knocks him back.
Dude, it's so awesome.
It's fun.
Again,
like, this is a fun
that's
scene.
Another like gameplay mechanic of like the quick grapple of like he just grabs the guy, brings it to him, and punches him. He ropes one guy up on the ceiling, like does an inverted takedown, and then like uses that guy to kick into another guy, which was just like, it's so cool. I love when he jumps over the crate and then grapples the crate, throws it over him to like hit the guys in front of him.
Oh yeah.
At one point he just
that guy's like probably
he's dead. I mean, you see the blood on the wall behind him, which again was an Ultimate Edition like thing that they added. I like when he punches the guy and the guy just like goes like, his head goes face first and his legs kick up into the air because he punched him so hard. That was cool. Yeah, I mean, again, great fight. And with the exception of, like, at one point he hits a guy who's holding a grenade and the guy lets go of the grenade and it blows up, which...
And then the guy crawls back towards the grenade as if, what's he going to do with it?
Well,
I think he's trying to, like, close the...
He's trying to grab it to, like...
pressure thing.
Yeah.
But there's no time.
Dumb. But yeah, like Dan's saying, like, I just think, like, when he gets stabbed and then he, like, stabs the guy, but again, doesn't kill him. Like, I love that. I love him, like... taking the knife and be like, fuck you, and just like stabbing him into the wall.
It's resourceful, like using the environment.
Exactly.
And then it all leads up to him breaking through the wall of the room where Martha's being held hostage.
Yeah. So this is another thing I want to point out. This is like dialogue for dialogue, like frame for frame from the Dark Knight Returns comic. And it's one of the few times in this movie where when that scene was happening, we see the guy holding a gun to Martha, and we see a guy next to the wall with a big-ass machine gun. And I was like, when we watched the first time in theaters, I was like, oh my God. This is something from that comic that they're not going to, like, fuck up. Like, this is the perfect place to put that reference. And, like, in the comic, busts through the wall, grabs this guy with a machine gun. There's another guy holding someone hostage who says, like, believe me, I'll do it. And then Batman says, oh, I believe you. And in the comic, he doesn't kill the guy. He just, like, shoots the guy's gun and then, like, takes him down. And it's like a really cool scene. And so to have that here, I thought was like one of the few times we had a reference to the comic that made me like happy, where I was like, great, like what a nice way to end this scene, like this amazing Batman fight. And we also get a reference to a really badass moment from Batman comics that like feels earned, and you totally get the motivation. And yeah, great.
Yeah, and this is a side note, but I think I remember you telling me in that scene from the comic, it was, like, wasn't there, like, a baby being...
Yeah.
Or a kid being held hostage?
Yeah, so
that's pretty fucked up.
In the comic, it is, like, this, like, baby that is born into this family that is, like, some rich, like... It would be like Jeff Bezos' like, baby. You know what I mean? And so these people are, like, holding this baby hostage for money, and then Batman shows up and, like, fucks him up and he breaks through the wall and he grabs the machine gun. It's cool. It's really cool. I love that. I like the use of that scene here because again, like in the comic, like we said, a baby really fucked up. But in this, there was like the built-in stakes of like this is Superman's mom. So like I think the stakes line up, and yeah, I just think it's like in this movie that is so bad. This is like a perfect scene. I don't know where it comes from, but it's just like this amazing scene where I'm like, oh, that's so good.
And that's why I'm convinced that Ben Affleck was like at least directing like the action.
Yeah.
But then how do we feel about the fact that it ends with Batman saying, "I'm a friend of your son's," and Martha going, "I figured, the cape."
That's the thing too. Like that's the funniest thing in this whole movie.
Yeah.
Like she's almost
and it just doesn't
died.
connect with
she doesn't
anything
even
else.
seem traumatized. She's just like, "Oh yeah, you have a cape. Of course, thanks."
The thing is, I have two thoughts with that line. One, I do think it feels as much like I like the line. I think it feels a little bit out of place, but that's just because the rest of the movie is so fucking depressing.
Yeah.
Like
this whole scene feels almost
because this scene to me feels like what I want like a DC movie scene to feel like. Of like it's fun and engaging and badass, and you get like a fun moment. You get a reference to the comic. You get a fun moment. I will say, I could have done without the specific mention of the cape. Like I would like him saving her and saying, "I'm a friend of your son's," and her being like, "Yeah, I figured," and like just cut away from that. Like I feel like that would have been funny enough. I feel like the pause and then her saying the cape, I was like, yeah, I know he's dressed like a bat. Like I understand why you think that they're friends. Like no big deal. Also, they're not friends. Like you just tried to kill
them.
him.
They are now.
No, yeah, well that's the problem.
Martha's bring people together.
Yeah. Martha's bring people together. Okay, so that's the good scene, and then let's just get through the end because Doomsday shows up. Lex Luthor created Doomsday somehow. We already talked about all this.
Out of Zod's body.
Yeah. Again, in the comics, Doomsday comes through, very meticulously beats the entire Justice League until Superman finally decides to take action, and they die.
Does Doomsday in the comic have like the powers that this Doomsday has?
No. He's just like basically the Hulk, but with spikes.
So he doesn't absorb energy from a nuclear missile that's sent into space?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Oh, by the way, that you know what? We'll save that for the end.
Okay.
I'm gonna do something right at the end. I just want to run through a lot of the like comic book like imagery references and like how stupidly used they are in this movie. So but in the comic, it's this thing of like after Doomsday has destroyed like so much of the United States, Superman and Doomsday fight like in the middle of Metropolis, like in the daytime, and like everyone in Metropolis is watching, and there's just like finally he beats him, and Superman is just kind of like exhausted and bleeding, and it's this really sad moment. Like Lois Lane runs up and like grabs Superman, and he dies in her arms, and like all of Metropolis is watching, and again we have this fallout of like imagine there's like no real world equivalent to this. I mean like okay I guess imagine like I guess the best thing would be like if you could put yourself back when like JFK was assassinated, of just like oh my god, like what the fuck, like this like huge public figure was just like killed in public. Like that's what this is supposed to feel like. And in this movie, Superman just flies into him with a spear, and then Doomsday stabs him.
Yeah.
And then everything's really dark, and then they die.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It's lame. I hate it.
Although I did cry when Superman and Lois said goodbye. I really wasn't expecting to cry.
Why? Why?
I'm romantic.
What romance do they have?
Did you like the horribly delivered line where he's like, "You're my world"?
Like I really didn't expect it to happen. It was almost involuntary. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I'm getting my period soon, but like I shed a little tear, and then he died.
Oh god.
But it was after I wrote a note that said, "What did this bitch do to get trapped under the water?" So, it was really a back and forth.
Still don't know.
Before we move on from this...
Did you guys like the nativity scene of when Superman was dead with Batman and Wonder Woman standing over him like Joseph and Mary?
Oh my god.
Yeah, well,
also, when Lois threw the dirt onto the coffin after everyone left, doesn't that happen like when everyone's there? Like doesn't... Like, why was she just like, I'm just going to hang around?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It was kind of confusing of the timeline with that. We'll talk about that at the end. I have a note about that.
So if you think the Jesus imagery is just with the Joseph and Mary thing, just you wait, buddy. Because obviously there's the Joseph and Mary nativity thing, but the way Superman is brought down and the way, like, Lois holds him is, like, it's very obviously that very famous statue of, like, Mary holding Jesus. I forget what it's called, but it's like one of the most famous statues in, like, religious, like, history. Like, that image, like, it's everywhere. And then it goes even deeper than that, and if you look and go to this frame, there's that frame of Batman and Wonder Woman, Mary and Joseph, and Superman is holding dead Jesus, and in the top left of the frame there's, like, some wood posts that have fallen that form two crosses, because if you remember your Catholicism correctly,
God, I didn't even see that.
Jesus was crucified with these two other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. If you didn't get it. Okay, so Superman dies, and in this universe, Superman dying, which again, 20 movies should have built up to, ends up being the catalyst for
We're
why
two movies in.
Yeah, this is now why people don't hate him, because he died, apparently. So.
Yeah.
And also, Clark Kent's dead.
Yeah, I wasn't clear if the people at the newspaper, like, put that together or just thought it was a coincidence.
Nope,
no, because everyone in this movie is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Because it was like, front page, Superman dies. A couple pages in, also, one of our workers, Clark Kent, died. Crazy.
Looks suspiciously like Superman. That's what, like, they should have abandoned that in this universe. Like, why are they still trying to make us believe that people don't see through the glasses?
Yeah. Or at least, like, do it in a fun way of, like, who cares? But you can't have your cake and eat it too. This can't be a movie where everyone is so, like, trying to figure out the, like, moral implications of having, like, a god on Earth, but also nobody can see through the glasses. Like, you have to fucking pick a lane and stick to it. Pick a lowest lane.
In this universe where it's a fact no one can see through the glasses, but Lex Luthor can. Why?
Well, but that's the thing. Can he see through them? Because he also knows who Batman is, so, like, did he just figure this out somehow? Like, we don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, so then we get two funeral scenes, and Batman says the famous line, I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death. Okay, thanks, Batman.
Help me find the others like you.
Yeah, but then she just
Wonder Woman's
walks
also
away, and the conversation doesn't really end. She just leaves. And I'm like, okay, fair. She's a busy
and then
girl.
we cut to what we find out is a flashback, but I thought happened after.
Ditto.
Where Batman... Yeah, so Batman visits Lex Luthor in jail, and he's like, you're going to Arkham Asylum, because that's the Lex Luthor in this movie would belong in Arkham Asylum. And he, like, does a fake out where we think he brands him, but he, like, he doesn't do that anymore. Sure, that's progress. Whatever. But then we cut back to... And like, Lex kind of vaguely hints at the future, like the Justice League movie with, like, Darkseid and shit, because he was talking to Steppenwolf, as we mentioned. But then we cut back to Lois still at the funeral, so that implies that this happened before Clark's funeral. And, like, only now is she gonna put the dirt that we saw her grab 10 minutes ago before the Lex Luthor scene onto the coffin.
Yeah. Well, I'll do you one better if you want to talk about... Okay, so by the way, let's get the end of the movie over with. So she puts the dirt on the coffin, and then we see the dirt start to rise a little bit, and we cut to credits.
Yeah.
For those of you who have seen the theatrical cut of Justice League, there's no reason that dirt needs to rise. It means nothing. And also, I don't know if in the Snyder cut it will mean anything either. I think it's more just dumb. So that's the end of the movie. Now, something I want to point out, you were talking about that weird timeline thing with Lois of, like, picking up the dirt and then 10 minutes later she puts it.
Yeah.
So at the start of the movie with the Jolly Ranchers, right? He's wearing a very specific outfit with like a white coat, right?
Sure.
It all comes back to the Jolly Ranchers.
So he's wearing this very distinct outfit with the white coat and, like, the sneakers, and he looks like a douche.
Yeah.
And he puts the Jolly Rancher in this guy's mouth, and he gets access to the Kryptonian ship.
I can't believe we're talking about this scene again.
But then we cut to him entering the Kryptonian ship in that outfit, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
So, but then the rest of the movie happens, and then in the third act, we cut back to him in the Kryptonian ship doing stuff, which I guess means that technically at the start of this movie, Lex went into the Kryptonian ship, got all the information, started the Doomsday process, and then throughout the movie, that's already happened.
I guess.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I took it.
It just seems weird to me. Like, just show that all at once. Let's set up what Lex is doing, and then see it happen. I don't know why we're cutting away from it, and then 2 hours later cutting back to it.
Yeah, you kind of have to pay attention to his outfit to understand.
Yeah, which I don't want to do.
They just don't want you to forget about him.
Oh, how could we ever forget about him? Okay, I think we're done.
Why is this movie called Dawn of Justice?
Because Wonder Woman's in it.
But there's no justice.
I don't know.
In this movie.
I don't know. I'm just coming up with stuff. I don't know. Should we end off with just some miscellaneous notes? Tell you what. Let me do some of my random comic book notes, and then if you guys can like get your miscellaneous notes ready if you just want to share some. Okay, so some of my random comic book notes, it's primarily references to Dark Knight Returns. We don't get a lot of Death of Superman stuff till the end. There's a lot of imagery taken directly from it, like we talked about the mechanical back suit. Also, the bat suit he wears is like a one-for-one recreation of the one from that comics. Again, dope. Don't have a problem with it, but whatever. Again, his conversation with Alfred in the Bat Cave. We're always criminals, Alfred. Like, nothing's changed from Dark Knight Returns. Jason Todd's suit in the display, like, that is a staple of all Batman stuff, but I think it actually started in Dark Knight Returns. Dark Knight Returns started that. There's a scene in Dark Knight Returns where Bruce is standing on top of a building with a sniper rifle, and you're like, oh shit, what the fuck? But it turns out he actually needs to shoot like a long range like cable to like grapple somewhere. That's why he has a sniper, for better aim. In this movie, we get that exact same imagery of him standing with a sniper rifle, except he shoots a tracking device because, I don't know, he shoots a tracking device, but then gets in the Batmobile and chases them. So, like, why did you shoot a tracking device, you fucking moron, idiot? Just so we could get that scene from Dark Knight Returns? Fuck's sakes.
Because he just wanted to show Batman with a gun.
Yeah.
With a sniper rifle.
Because I think he just saw that image. Like we talked about, the pearls, the gun going in between the pearls, that is a frame from that comic. But again, this is when Bruce is having, like, weird episodes remembering his parents' death. So, like, it probably wasn't actually that graphic, but this is him, like, interpreting in the comic. In this movie, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just a dumb scene. There's a couple other things. Okay, so when Bruce wakes up with the woman and he's, like, drinking wine, and Alfred's like, oh, you drink a lot of wine. Like we talked about, reference to in Dark Knight Returns, Bruce is an alcoholic, even though normally he doesn't drink. In this, unclear. Has he always been an alcoholic? Did he ever take a break? I don't know. Okay? So that warehouse fight, obviously we talked about the ending being a direct reference to Dark Knight Returns. There is also a warehouse fight in Dark Knight Returns where he chases some criminals down and, like, fights them in this warehouse. And I don't know, like, it's not a one-to-one, but just the idea of him, like, fighting criminals in a warehouse is very much from that comic. Okay. When Superman gets blowed up by the nuke, that imagery directly from Dark Knight Returns. At one point, the U.S. are, like, being assholes to some other country, and the other country, like, launches a nuke. And the U.S., obviously, like, Superman is, like, a puppet of the U.S. at this point, and they're like, all right, go stop it. And he's like, okay. And so he, like, flies into space and, like, stops the nuke, but then, like, turns into a zombie. But it's actually, like, sadder in the comic because he falls to Earth in, like, this weird zombie form, and he has to, like, stay in the sun for his body to heal because he gets his powers from the sun in the comics. So that's what that is a reference to. That's why Weird Zombie Superman is in this movie.
Gotcha.
And then the other bit of imagery, at one point when Batman's fighting Doomsday, he's, like, grappling around, and there's one point where he grapples, like, onto a building, and he, like, has his arm out, and there's, like, a lightning bolt that flashes behind him, which, like, the Dark Knight Returns is famous for this cover of Batman, like, flying through jumping through the air, and there's a lightning bolt, like, behind him. Like, that's what it's famous for. And it's from a scene where in Batman's, like, first night out after being retired, there's, like, a police officer that's, like, looking on the roof, and he sees Batman, like, jump as, like, the thing goes. So that is, like, a visual reference to that, but it's like a blink if you miss it visual reference. But technically it's in there. So I think that's all the Dark Knight Returns stuff. And then I just got a couple miscellaneous notes from the movie. I already talked about Superman's derp face because that just made me laugh so hard. And we will make it the start of this. Okay, so at the start of this movie, when like we're first, so we see like those police officers that are like watching a football game, and then like Gotham loses, and then the police officers are like, oh boy, it's gonna be a hectic night in Gotham. And I was like, Gotham is the most crime riddled city in the country. Why do we need to set up there being a football game to explain why like there would be crime in Gotham tonight?
But then there wasn't even football related crime.
I don't know.
That
Like
we
it's
saw.
it's such a dumb scene.
I know. I haven't known about that.
I assumed maybe one of the football players was like a character they were referencing or something. I don't know.
Nope.
I didn't know what that was.
I
all
wish,
about.
Dan. I wish. Okay. Also, I love how the memorial of all the people that died also has a statue of Superman in front of it. That would be like if the memorial of 9/11
Yeah.
had like a statue of a plane in front of it. Like, are you fucking... How dense are you? Like, this guy killed all these people. Like, why would there be a statue of Superman in front of the memorialized victims?
And it's like, do they hate him
I don't
at this
know.
point? Yeah. And then they have a statue of him, too.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. A fun Batman scene I liked when Batman was at that like undercover nightclub thing, and there's that one boxer that's losing, and then Bruce like whispers something in his ear, and then he immediately like fucks up the other guy.
Oh,
I just
yeah,
thought that was cool. Like Bruce is like watching the fight, and he's like, "Oh, dude, like if you want to win, like you just have to use this tactic." I thought that was like a fun little Batman moment. And yeah, that's it. Everything else I already brought up in the video. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to quickly say, if you want to actually watch a fight between Batman and Superman that's worth it and has dramatic stakes behind it, don't watch this movie. Just watch the animated Dark Knight Returns movie, because it's way better. That's all I have to say.
I just have a couple of things to say. One is very random, and I don't know how or why or what part of my brain this came out of, but I think Marco will appreciate it. There was a shot that lasted literally a second. I think it was when Lois returned from Africa, and she was getting out of this yellow cab, and everything else in the city was dark, and it was raining, and everyone had umbrellas, and for some reason in my head immediately I saw Danny DeVito. And I thought
What?
of Batman Returns. I don't know why.
The Penguin?
Yeah.
I just had to put that out there. I don't know if that was on purpose, but like it flashed in my brain.
I get it. The visual imagery. I get it.
They did a good job. And then this is probably the most random fun fact I will ever tell you. I don't even know how I got here. But the actor Ralph Lister played Emmett Vale in this movie. I don't even remember or know who that is. I don't know why I clicked on his name. I don't know how I got here. But I was on his IMDb. And this is the first sentence of his description, and I just had to share it. Born in one of the unlikeliest of places, on the desk of the British High Commissioner in New Delhi, India. Native British stage and film actor Ralph Lister lives happily in whatever real or imagined world he finds himself. Why does his IMDb tell us he was born on a table?
Why is it so whimsical?
Weird.
Anyway, I don't know how I found myself in that rabbit hole, but I did. Like I said, don't even know who the
I'm trying to
character
remember
is.
what character that was.
It wasn't anyone important, I imagine. Probably one of the CIA people, who knows. But
Yeah, probably.
he was born on a table in New Delhi, India. Fun fact.
Good to know.
That's all I have to share.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've almost talked about this for the runtime of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's okay. I think that's fair because technically this is a feature-length movie. So,
True.
yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. I think next week will be a lot shorter because
Yeah.
there's just nothing that happens in that movie.
This
So
was
it's
definitely going to be the longest episode, and we all knew it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Next week is just going to be a lot of like, what did we watch? Sorry, can you remind me of what happened? Because yeah, that is a fun movie. Yeah, so we're watching.
Yeah, well, as Marco alluded to, I think Justice League is a worse movie only because it's like a corporate mess.
And I've never seen it.
And this movie at least had someone's vision behind it, even if it turned out to be shit.
Yeah.
It was still a vision
Sure.
of someone.
Yeah, and also it has the Batman warehouse scene. Like, there's not one... I would watch this
Yeah.
whole movie just for that scene rather than watch Justice League.
Well, there's also one standout cool scene in Justice League,
Oh,
too,
I know the one you're talking.
which we won't talk
Are there
about
any
right
Jolly
now, but-
Ranchers?
No, there's no Jolly Ranchers.
Damn it. Well, we'll see if I like it then. No
We
promises.
will see. Yeah, so
It's gonna suck.
next week... Or not next week, sorry. Next
Jolly
episode,
Ranchers.
for those who made it this far, Also, thank you anyone who actually listened to all this, because this is a lot.
Honestly, even if it is in 10 parts, that's what I would
Also,
do.
remember when we were going to do like a Q&A after this? Maybe we'll just save that for next week.
They
'cause-
were all general questions. I do want
Yeah,
to
so-
acknowledge we appreciate the questions. Maybe we'll do like a bonus where we answer some general questions
Sure.
if that's what we keep getting.
Or we can even just like save some and just like randomly answer some at the end. Like,
Yeah, because they're fun, and I do think it'd
Yeah.
be fun to talk about. But we're not
Yeah.
gonna. We're not.
Thanks for
gonna make
participating.
you do that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, so theatrical cut of Justice League if everyone wants to watch it, and then finally we'll get to see the Snyder cut. And
It's out
I'm
in 9
excited.
days on Crave.
I'm
For
excited
us.
to see like how, like, after having watched Man of Steel and Batman v Superman so close together, I'm excited to watch the theatrical cut and the Snyder cut and see like, okay, so like what was the vision?
Yeah.
Like I need to, I just want to know at this point, like what was the vision? I want to know because I'm very confused.
My roommate actually said she'd watch the Snyder cut with me, so I don't need to go through it alone. It was really sweet.
Awesome. I will be watching it alone, so that'll
Good
be
luck.
fun. Gotta take an
Same.
entire day of my life. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry that we were watching these movies, but I think it's producing good content for us.
I'm
fun
having
discussions, so I'm having
At
fun.
least with
Yeah.
these discussions.
The conversation's worth it.
Yeah. And I promise we will watch some good stuff once we're done.
Yeah, we'll get back to after this. We got to do like a genuine, like a classic good movie
Yeah.
to make up for these past 4
or
episodes.
show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Or a show.
Great.
Yeah.
Brainstorm.
Ooh, maybe we could do a show.
Yeah.
Bob's Burgers. Hashtag.
I
Everyone.
vote Schitt's Creek.
Oh, we could do Schitt's Creek.
Anyway, this is not a conversation. They've already listened to us for 3 hours. We should probably
I'll just cut this part
say,
out.
yeah, okay.
I'll cut this part out.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Nice.
Oh my god.